Clock is the hour in the UK. That means it's time to start streaming, even with an hour time difference. I know what it's like, because I just went through it. But for all of you, if you don't know it, and you probably have a daylight savings of some sort in your country, it's pretty common. It's pretty common. You'll have like the car will have its own clock, and you'll have to remember that that clock is 1 hour wrong, except for now when it isn't, and you need to remember that that is the correct time and not to add an extra hour to it. Hello. Hello, everyone. It's currently 2 o'clock in Florida. Great. If you're somewhere else in the world, tell me what time it is where you are. I know Americans like to put the state instead of the country. That's fine. I've learned some of them. You say South Utah, and I'm like, hey, I've never heard of that. That might be a country, or that might be a place in America. 11 a.m. Oh my, and some people are just waking up. Hello, Zarota. Wonderful. There's damage tables in the Yarrick book. I haven't read the Yarrick book. Is this the Armageddon book? Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, United States has like 5 time zones. Okay, unlike, say, China, which is massive but has 1 time zone. Well, if you go like central United States, west or east coast, I can generally get that. There's not too many people live in between. There's probably loads of people in between. We got someone up in Toon. Have you been down Toon, lad? You're 1 second behind in Newcastle. Lovely. That's a bunch of people in. It's good to have you. You're not lurking, are you? Just done a video about people lurking. Good. Type something in the chat so that I know you're alive and present. And even if you're painting, even if you're planning to play a game while also listening to me, that's fine. Just type something in the chat to say hi and recognize that you're here. I know you're here. It's not just like 17 people and 50 bots. Hello. Excellent. We've got people. Thank you very much, Dragon Cats 14. Oh, you're not lurking, you're just setting up this TV. Great, that's fine. Okay, we have like a couple of bots. We'll clean them out eventually. I'm gonna put together custodian wardens. Are they the ones with or without the bath towel? I can't remember. One of them looks like they've just come out the shower. One of them looks like they're in full body armor and is basically the same as Stormcast Eternals, to the point where you could maybe use a Stormcast Eternal with a shield and a sword as the Custodes. Just saying. As infantry, you're always lurking. Good, good. I would have to be a very advanced bot, and then it's Neurosama. And at that point, there'd have to be a tiny British man controlling me. Oh my goodness, there is, except I'm not tiny. I'm surprisingly tall. Am I excited for 11th edition? I was initially pessimistic about 11th edition, partly because it was just an awful Games Workshop stream, and I was tired when it came out. Also the realization that if it's not good, and I'm playing something I dislike and talking about it constantly online, and it becomes a miserable job and a miserable hobby, that's not a good time for me. So I really need this edition to be good. Yeah, I see the 40k merch stores suddenly selling coasters. I'm sure I'm glad I didn't get any of them and commission any of them to be made and spend money and time on that. Haha, good, good. No one wants any Christian Von Carmian circle objective markers, do you? I don't suppose terrain, all of the terrain you have could be area terrain. It happens to be a perfect circle. about 7 inches across. I don't know what they're going to do with the Space Marine detachments. Yes, there's going to be 3 new detachments coming out, or 2 or 3 new detachments in the Yarrick Crusade Armageddon book, not Crusade. But they're going to be compatible with next edition, and then there'll be a refresh of sorts, possibly. For example, when the Space Marine Codex comes out, but that'll be like September time, October time. Yeah, I could do more Warlord game stuff if 11th edition sucks. Unfortunately, they pay me in miniatures mostly, unless you want to use my pre-order link in the description, and you can pre-order some, say, werewolf bears. They're not as bad as werewolves, so it's fine. Or any of the British automatons. That works. Tau blood is purple. Tau blood is fun. Oh, right, yeah, 2 in Return to Armageddon, that makes sense. They're vehicle-focused, and then another one in the Eye of Terror. I've not read that article yet, because the time that Games Workshop published the article was like an hour before they published the, they published the links to the article, then an hour later, they published the article, because daylight savings time. They haven't quite caught up on it. You like my videos even though you don't agree with everything I make. Well, that's just because we're slightly different people. And of course, if you agreed with everything I said, you would just watch all the videos and it wouldn't be interesting. It'd be like, I wonder which of my personal thoughts is going to come out of his mouth. Yeah. 11th will be slightly better or worse than 10th. That makes sense. That makes sense. It's not such a big change. What if 11th edition is amazing and encourages kit bashing? I doubt it will, considering the models. Think about the models. Any of the models. Games Workshop models generally. It's a lot of 15-part models to make a single pose that looks exactly like it is on the box. No customization, really. How often do you get arms with like ball and socket joints, or even flat bits together? That's more the older kits, like the Genestealer Cult Acolytes. You can pose them in like 50 different ways, because there's so many heads and so many arms, and it's just flat. You can tilt it. Most of the other stuff now, since like 2017, 2016, yeah, say 2017, it's been like triangles on the shoulders so that the arms fit on in one exact way. Tactical intercessors? I hope so. Otherwise, I'm being told, as I was told at the start of 8th edition, and the start of 9th edition, and the start of 10th edition, that tactical squads will be going away forever. Or they might just continue as tactical intercessors of a sort. Or a tactical squad box will be released. We're also expecting like a bike squad, because the bikes that they sell at the moment, I don't think there's a standalone bike squad. It's all the 9th edition starter set bikes, isn't it? 3 monopose models. And they have the Indomitus Crusade marking on their wrist. I think that's right. Am I going to get the new Adeptus Rotas character? Unlikely. Unlikely. It might just be something I use Inquisitor Karamazov as. Like, this is boy version. They've done their HRT. One way or the other, it's either Karamazov into Dogmata Superior or Dogmata Superior into Karamazov. Yeah, the Vanguard veterans with the jump packs are more of an assault troops rather than jump packs peoples. We'll get to that. Right. Okay, we'll be talking about 11th edition almost entirely. Yeah, Vanguard veterans. You can tell by the helmet and also how they're equipped. With power swords rather than chain swords, and they have jump packs. That's a Vanguard veteran thing. Don't know if there'll be Vanguard veterans on foot, as there previously was, not as like a kit you could buy. It was just, as with assault squads, you could build them with regular backpacks rather than with the jump packs. Yes, Vanguard veterans. So what we need to keep in mind for 11th edition, if you know the answer to these questions that I have today, let me know the answer with sources, please. If you have sources, that'd be great. Battle Line Sisters with chainswords? That would probably look too much like Repentia. I mean, can you imagine them bringing out, I don't know, Combat Celestians and then another squad that's Combat Celestians? It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy times. What we want from Sisters in 11th edition is drop cathedrals. Just a big old drop cathedral. Like a cog fort, but it doesn't need to move, it just needs to land. Maybe then it'd be a fortification. That's not so great. I accidentally bought a 9th edition Gene Stealer called Combat Patrol. That's the good Combat Patrol, McFatson. That's the good one. Just worry about the launch box would give Vanguard veterans since they have a lot of options, but there's no options in launch boxes. Okay, I'll skip to talking about the models first. Right. I think Games Workshop's doing something new. People always say, okay, it's a starter set, so it's going to be all monopose pieces. However, if you look at the Age of Sigmar 4th edition set, there's quite a few options. Not like loads of options, but the Stormcast Eternals, you can have them with big hammers or small hammers. There's different head options. The Rat Ogres, each Rat Ogre can be built like 2 different ways. So if you have 2 sets of 3, you can have 6 unique looking Rat Ogres. So there's slight variation. So for the War Boss that we saw coming out, leaked, it's coming, that could be identical to one that is sold separately, because we saw a box on the ground. Yeah, that's like the discarded box containing one War Boss. It's very mild sculpting options you've got on like the Stormcast and the Rat Ogres. Yeah, so the Liberators can have shields, or they can have 2 hammers. There you go. There's some options in weapons. The War Boss is a sold separately model, but it saves Games Workshop from making another sculpt. Maybe the Terminator Captain didn't sell too well. Why buy a Terminator Captain with 2 gun options and 2 weapon options, like a power sword or a power fist, when for £3 in the Combat Patrol magazine, or secondhand, you can get a monopose version from the starter set that's near identical. So, if Games Workshop just had, this is your War Boss, it's in the pose from the trailer, and it has either the axe or it has a claw, and then in its gun, it's either a combi flamer or a combi rocket. Then they can just say, okay, that piece, sell it separately. We've seen them do it so many times with Models of the Month and with split boxes. Like how often they've taken the pieces of a sprue and say, okay, we'll put these bunch of things together and call it Heroes of the Chapter. Should you kit bash a cog fort into a castigator? There's a bit of a size difference there. Bit of a size difference. You think the Blood Angels get actual Death Company or a Librarian Dreadnought? I mean, they already have Death... Oh, do you mean Death Company Dreadnought? At the moment, it's just repaint the Brutalis Dreadnought as Death Company. And that's it. I don't know about the Librarian Dreadnought. That might just stay as a Legends thing for now. I don't know if they really need that anymore. Oh yeah, you didn't get a cape on the separate Terminator Captain. It was just not so great. Basic Death Company sculpts? Is it just paint them black at the moment? Oh yeah, they've got like an upgrade sprue. That was not great. That was not great. You can do a Librarian Chaplain. That's fun in the Crucible Champions. Yeah, yeah. I haven't looked at really the Divergent Chapters one, because the Death Watch were in Imperial Agents, but you can, through Crucible Champions, make them Adeptus Astartes. Then it works. Right, what has Games Workshop promised? Oh, well, one thing about the Sisters Detachment. I misheard the live stream when they were talking about Armageddon. There is a new battalion box for the Sisters. There is no new detachment for the Sisters, which I was kind of expecting. So we're not getting a new detachment until the next edition. Right, Games Workshop was also not being particularly clear about the things that we're getting. And you need to remember that whenever Games Workshop says something now for 11th edition, remember 10th edition. In Games Workshop's introduction to 10th edition, they said there would be fewer rerolls. And they meant that as in, like, no aura rerolls. You won't have characters giving every unit within 6 inches reroll hit rolls of 1, or reroll wound rolls of 1. They said it would be more simplified, and it was. It was. They said Combat Patrol would be great for onboarding, and it'll be a great game mode in itself, but it's not really a game mode in itself. It's kind of there as a much more limited version of 40k. It gives you the introduction to the basic style of 40k. They also said there would be no more power level. Everything would be done with points. And then that was kind of lies, because the points values are like power. Power levels in 9th edition was, okay, a unit is 4 power, or it is 80 points, or 85 points. And that 85 points might be broken up between 5 17-point models and a bunch of war gear that you could put on. Then we got to 10th edition, and it was like, okay, no, this unit is 85 points. No variation in it. Doesn't matter what war gear you have, it's 85 points, which is how power levels worked. And people didn't like power level because it felt like you were spending too much for what you had, or if you went for the basic version, you wanted the cool weapons. So now we have all of the problems of that. I think most combat patrols are about 300 points at the moment. Thinking of all the new ones. I will definitely come to detachments. We will get through all of it, yes. Combat patrols could be about 660 points. You can buy 3 and have an army. That would be good. Yeah. But look at the battalions they just brought out. Here's the battalion for the Death Watch. And it's 10 Marines. And a flyer. And that's not an army. There's no character, which is concerning for Death Watch players. Please say there's going to be more than just those 2 units available to Death Watch. Okay. Yeah, that was not great. What else did Games Workshop do? They said there'd be less lethality as unit combos and stratagems and characters interact in a way that wasn't intended. That was like Stu Black on a Play on Tabletop interview, which I recently rewatched. And that whole thing has been a staple of 10th edition. Finding these ultra combos. How do you get lethal hits and sustained hits and have it activate on a 5+? Usually that's detachment rule and character rule and then a stratagem. And you've also got maybe not intended things like fight on death and then resurrection. If you play the Hallowed Martyrs for the Battle Sisters, have 10 Sacrosancts with a Hospitaller, do the fight on death stratagem for 2 command points, and then you bring them back with the Hospitaller. So they fought on death, and then they get back up, and then they keep fighting. Or you can lose the Hospitaller, and then with Spirit of the Martyr, she gets back up, rejoins the unit. What's the difference between combat patrols and battalions? Well, combat patrols and battalions are functionally the same. It's a box of miniatures for a slightly discounted price. The difference is Combat Patrol has some rules for the Combat Patrol game mode. So you get a choice of 1 of 2 enhancements for your leader, a choice of 1 of 2 secondary missions for your army, and you have 3 stratagems and some really specific data cards that are not quite the same as they are in 40k. So that in theory, but not in practice, not remotely in practice, every Combat Patrol is balanced against every other one. It would be nice if Combat Patrol was its own good game mode, as it hopefully would be the same as Spearhead is, because I know people who just play Spearhead and don't play Age of Sigmar. We might get that. That'd be nice. Black Antonio, is that true, or are you just being hopeful that the new battalions are actually combat patrols? Because I don't think they are, because they were called battalions. It's very expensive. Ah, yeah, you're just saying they're bad for being kind of a full box. Makes sense, makes sense. Thank you for clarifying. Right, let me get the first thing in, because I thought, you know, there's a lot of people just making stuff about 40k at the moment, and they're just putting no effort in. We don't call it slop, but it's just, hey, there's just some dude talking about the next edition. Why don't we turn up and you just get money? And then they have a PowerPoint with it, which is silly, which is why I decided not to make a PowerPoint. I'm just going to drop some things in. See, the slides aren't organized. They just drop in one at a time. And that's different from making a PowerPoint, so this isn't slop. Also, if anyone wanted to give me money, not because of making just easy to do 40k slop, which it isn't. I've put thought into this. I've got a script. I've got comments. Also, it's my anniversary. Yay, this isn't a wedding anniversary. It's 3 years of me being on YouTube doing Warhammer 40,000 stuff. Woo! Yay! Woo! No, Auspex is not meant to be taking strays. Actually, Auspex Tactics doesn't use the PowerPoint. He uses a different application. I know because I've worked with him before. Like 3 times or so. I'm sure we will again near the start of 11th edition. Would you hope that sisters become more horde or more elite? It'd be nice if they were more elite. That would be good. They are very similar to Space Marines in profile, rather than, let's maybe not make them so much like Imperial Guardsmen, you know? Yeah. 3 whole years, that's great. There's a link in the description for Ko-fi if you want to give me money at any point in the live stream, and that will pop up from the bottom here. Also, there's a load of other links if you want discounts for, you know, different places and things, because I now have an affiliate link for Europe if you want discounted 40k models and you live in Europe. Or if you want cheaper brushes and a lot of other things, Golden Maple Paintbrushes has a discount code, Vtuber, then you get 20% off. Much cheaper things. We will talk about Kill Team later. It's going to be really relevant for some particular things. Now let's talk about the ways to play. In 8th edition and 9th edition, something I really liked that Games Workshop did was defining the ways to play. So there was open play, there was narrative play, and there was matched play. On top of that, there was also tournament play, which was a variation of match play, and then 10th edition stopped defining them. So you didn't know what kind of mission you were doing, and it led to, well, if everything is basically the same, and the most organized and structured is tournament play. Thank you very much, Wenbin Tan, for the 10 monies to the slop fund. But if everything's the same and it's going to be more organized if you do tournament style, people just did tournament style. How to lay out terrain was vague and unhelpful in the core rules, and it's not mentioned in any of the mission rules, so people just went to the tournament terrain pack and looked at the Games Workshop things there. Or they went to like ITC or WTC and it's like, oh, okay, here's how people set up their tables. Yeah, it used to be different. So in 8th or 9th edition, each mission would be marked as this is open play, which means you don't even need to have the same points value. It's a very story-driven mission, like pure story. So that could be a 2 against 1 last stand kind of thing. Or it could be a like breakthrough mission. And it was just to put some models on the table, have fun doing this. It's structured enough. A lot of the rules options, well, a lot of the rules were just optional. Some things are optional, some things are not. Narrative play was more, okay, you have equal sides, but it's all about the story, and here are some extra stratagems in 8th edition to do it. In 9th edition, they introduced Crusade. So Crusade became the whole, this is how you do narrative games, and you level up your Crusade. 10th edition continued Crusade, so we've had Crusade supplements, which have now stopped, and we've had campaign supplements instead, which aren't Crusade, even though people think they're basically the same. They're not. There's no Crusade rules. There are just interesting missions, so I suppose that would still count as narrative play if they were defined. And then I suppose there's also asymmetric missions in the 25-26 mission deck, but is that then matched play? Or is that narrative play? That's maybe more matched play. And then you got tournament separate to that, which is you take the mission deck and you burn about 40% of the cards. Keep the secondary mission deck, keep the primary mission deck. Well, not all of the primary missions, most of the primary missions. And then get rid of the rest. Get rid of the twists. Get rid of the challenger cards. Get rid of all the asymmetric stuff. Yeah. They haven't said if we're getting to keep Crusade in 11th edition, which is something I'm concerned about. So how do you have a competitive game and a narrative game at the same time? How is it story-driven, but also it's a competitive sport? So rather than split things up into different ways to play, so if there was like a normal way to play, a narrative way to play, and then a tournament way to play, that would be my way of doing it. Instead, a unified experience, so narrative and competitive are merged. Each side is fearing the worst. I'm thinking, right, they're going to strip out all of the cool narrative stuff and just say the game itself is inherently narrative. Keep that. Tournament players are like, oh no, they're going to strip out all of our stuff. It's going to be very vague. Oh, we're going to be playing like basic rules. There'll be no real FAQ. There we go. Yeah, you flip a coin for every rule and decide if it's going to be narrative or competitive. So what about Legends? Oh, tournament players are saying this is awful. Legends will be absolutely everywhere. We won't be able to design around it. The optimist in me says they'll keep Legends because they have in Age of Sigmar and in Horus Heresy. The pessimist in me says that the competitive players who mock Legends and say, just buy new Space Marines every edition. What's the big deal? Might win out. Tournament arc. Thank you, McFadden. I mean, tournaments are fun, but it's very different to regular 40k. Aside from like two-dimensional terrain, half of the units not being able to be played anymore was what is being part of what killed War Machine. So I'm told from War Machine players. So this is compromise. The worst of each world instead of having two cakes. There is one cake and everyone needs to have it and also eat it. So I don't know if boarding actions, which was introduced or sort of reintroduced at the end of 9th edition, will continue into 11th edition. There's been one book for boarding actions and it wasn't a great book. That might just stop. Crusade, I would like to continue. We got a here's how to continue your Crusade from 9th edition to 10th edition, like FAQ PDF at the start of 10th edition. And then there's been quite a few Crusade books. 5 Crusade books? 4 Crusade books? 4 Crusade books. I want to say 4 Crusade books. So we don't know if Crusade will be viable. On every future point, which one wins out? The narrative side or the tournament side? Because competitive play, as Black Antonio is saying, competitive plays, everything is symmetrical. And that means that if you want a more narrative board with a river running on one side, oh, well, maybe there has to be a river on the other side as well. I've played against people who had, like, Space Marine models from 1st edition. Like, they got that first Rogue Trader box. Or they got some metal ones. I think, I know I laughed, and some other people laughed in chat when it was announced that when they said every battle will be more balanced, and I think there was laughter there in the studio as well. Furry Man, thank you for the £8 and tuppence. The way you understood it is that detachments will have goals, and your goals and your opponent's goals combine to determine what the missions are. Seems like a great space to balance armies. It could be. It could be something extra that they add on. We will definitely get to detachments and the way detachments work. But at the moment, it's just a unified experience between narrative and competitive things. That doesn't seem possible. I'm interested to see how they try and do it. We have essentially in the past had the one way to play 40k, like 5th edition, 6th edition. Tournaments didn't really do anything special. Maybe tournaments would ban certain things. But there was a limit on that. Oh yeah, a lot of people convert things. You absolutely should convert things. But they keep up with this is going to be the most balanced edition. Again, this one, this time, not 10th edition, not 9th edition. they said at the start of 8th edition it would be more balanced than 7th edition. 7th edition was maybe the worst balanced because it had the most obvious, your codex comes out, you are the most powerful. Because there were these formations. The first ones were the Space Marines, which had the Demi Company. So if you had a Space Marine captain or a chaplain leading, and then you had... Ooh, welcome, Uruk Captain. And then you had like 3 tactical squads, an assault squad, and a devastator squad, and all of those units got a rhino for free. It's part of where the meme comes from that the rhinos are free. You can just take the rhinos. We need special tournament French villages. Yeah, when it's asymmetric terrain. Yeah. Isn't 10th edition actually the most balanced it's ever been? Yes. And look at 10th edition. The Necron formation in 7th edition was also pretty awful. They got to re-roll their I'll be back rolls because the idea it worked there. You took some casualties, but they just laid down. And then at the end of the phase, then it might have been the end of turn, it changed various points during the editions and within an edition. But you got to roll a dice for each one. On like a 1 to 3, they were actually dead. On a 4 to 6, they got back up. You got to re-roll ones for them getting back up. Or you got to re-roll it entirely, which was awful. And they had like relentless, so they could advance and shoot with everything. Very nasty. Are there any changes to the fortifications rules? Nothing has been mentioned for fortifications. It's assumed that they might still exist if they want to keep selling fortifications. Why can't people pronounce my name? It's maybe because they're expecting like Von Carstein. Maybe that's it. Or they know Carmen San Diego, and so their minds just default to a word they already know, rather than Carmian, which is an easy word. It's phonetic, but there we go. Would I want a return of equipment cards? No, definitely not. The problem with equipment cards, which we had in 2nd edition, is you got so many in the starter box, and then you might actually lose the cards. Or there would be an expansion come out and that came with the cards, and if you didn't have those cards, you couldn't play with those particular equipment things. Very annoying. New Crow, thank you very much. Thank you for the 20 euros. And thank you for that, and thanks for the content, you say. Charmian. Like the Pokemon. Wonder if fortifications will count as terrain for the ambush rules. Hey, that'd be good. That'd be good. Get your Battle Sister tower out, sit in it, and you can't be shot until you're shot at. Meh, that's not bad. That's not bad. Oh, Carmine like the color. That makes sense. Because of blood red. Yes. Alright, we'll talk about terrain and objectives. We know that area terrain is going to replace objective markers. Games Workshop says boo to circles and sells expensive circles for players to use in their tournament packs. What we don't know is how many objectives there's going to be on the table. If area terrain might not be the only terrain, but it could be a big part of the terrain. So there might be 10 pieces of terrain on the table. Like 2 in a deployment zone, 6 in no man's land, 2 in your opponent's deployment zone. That's a lot of terrain on the board. And if that's then all an objective marker, even if you're not scoring, even if you're not trying to score for all of them, like you might have a mission that is you take just the ones in no man's land, or the ones in your opponent's deployment zone, or protect the ones in your deployment zone. That's still a lot of areas that are objectives. Letters from Lynx, thank you. Action terrain, forts return as custom objectives. I don't think that would happen. Because how do you then like write rules and balance for what if you have that or don't have that? House ruling that Battle Sanctum has deep strike, that works. But thank you for the money, Letters for Links. No, I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that as a rule. You can see the new lurk rule with a cheap tower unit just sitting there marker lighting. Yeah, I think they would. And some of the battlesuit units reroll, or no, they ignore modifiers to their hit rolls. So if they're shooting someone in terrain, if they're within 15 inches, they can just do it. Yeah, I'm assuming not every piece of area terrain will be like, it's not all going to be an objective marker. But if there was 5 pieces of terrain... Ah, Kadri, thank you very much for the money. That is appreciated. £10 goes a long way towards Tesco meal deals. Could I use the Space Marine drop pod and claim its terrain and get the 15-inch loan-up rule? It's only for area terrain. So it has to be like something with a marked out area. Yeah, so far the changes seem to favor melee armies unless there are, say, 5 objectives, which is the 5 pieces of terrain that there are on the board. Then there's a lot of empty space for people to get shot, and they're trying to hide in the objectives. That could work. Hello, thank you for the 25 monies. Wish you luck on building your 3rd army, Adeptus Auroritas. Wonderful. As soon as you finish the Wolfguard Terminators... Oh, skip the Wolfguard Terminators. We don't need more filthy Space Wolves. Go straight to the Battle Sisters. Thank you very much. Happy channel birthday. I hope we get infantry squads back for our Brood Brothers. Yeah, that'd be nice. Basic infantry squads. Like these new Cadian models that came out, which are stealthy Cadians. And rather than making them Tanith First and Only or Talon, they've gone with, what if more Cadians were needed in the galaxy? So it's stealthy Cadians, elite Cadians, Joker Squad, which has a missile launcher and a loader as separate models. So there's at least some squad has 10 guys with a weapons team included. Imagine special terrain you can activate as an action to do stuff. That kind of happened in, was it 8th edition? No, 7th edition? It was around then. Yeah, 7th edition sounds right. You got into a piece, onto an objective, and it was a mysterious objective. So you rolled a d6, and there was a chart that told you what it does. So it might be that, yeah, you can shoot out, or it's an ammunition dump, so you shoot better. Or it's a force field, so you get an invulnerable save. Or it's a disruptor field, so when you try and charge people in the terrain, then you get -2 to the charge move. There could be something like that. I didn't like that because it took longer to play the game, and sometimes it was just booby traps. So you'd be the first one to get to an objective, and it would just explode you. That's awkward. Like, Reductor Saboteur starts on the objective, tries to set a booby trap, gets blown up by booby trap. Yeah, Mechanicus terrain could repair vehicles. We'll see. I mean, a lot of the terrain has pretty basic rules. Like the Tectonic Fragile for the Gene Stealer cult, it protects our blips. And that's okay. It's fine. It's not fine, it's pretty terrible. But that's about it. Opening or closing a drop pod to create or remove cover. Well, the new drop pods always have the doors open and are massive. So if boards had less terrain, which I think is a direction they're going in, that could be better. It means that melee armies have some places to hide. However, not everyone is able to hide, and so some things will be at least some of the time out in the open and available to get shot. I did not like the earlier editions where there wasn't objectives, so there's no reason to leave your deployment zone. So one side's a melee army, like Orcs, the other side's a shooting army, like some Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Imperial Guard, and Tau. They sit on the hills, they sit in their deployment zone, they shoot you as you come at them. And yeah, it wasn't as lethal, so you could make it. But then it was, do I get into combat and kill you, or do you get shot first? Taking the frag drill should reduce cult point costs? Yeah, if the resurgent point costs were not as big. That's the sniper, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, McFatson. Shout out to the third-party vendors selling objective markers. The premium drink coaster line, I hope it sells well. Alternatively, you can try and resell them as mouse mats. There you go. That could work. People getting blown up by their own bombs is accurate to real life. Yeah, but maybe not fun in a war game. If it's like the Reductor Saboteur rolls a 1, they die instantly. Uh-oh. Shooting armies are not going to like the terrain. You need to get within 15 and do it. But it at least means they have to go forwards. Yeah, Bricky has a lot of people with his merch company Orchid 8, who have terrain. Yes, he's made a tweet about it being really sad. I think they're doing discounts. They must be doing discounts. So if you want your area terrain to be circles from now on, you could do. We don't know if the location of terrain on different maps is going to be fixed, like objective markers were, like they are in Age of Sigmar. So I don't know if there'll be preset sizes for the terrain. I don't know if any narrative terrain would work. If it's a wood or a bunker or a tower. Yeah, maybe. Or can you have like a massive variety of things? Age of Round Towers? Exactly. Crater terrain? Yeah, look at all these mats that are crater terrain. Do they now need to balance terrain layout as well as armies? Well, they could. The way Age of Sigmar does it is each mission deployment map, like the cards you get, so for example in the mission decks, where it says how far away you are from your opponent, where your deployment zone is, it also shows you not just where objective markers are, but where terrain is placed. Yeah, then there's like 3 different types of terrain, one of which is magical and is like a little tower or wellspring. And they're all symmetrical, which is fine. Maybe you could just make your own board, which you can do in Age of Sigmar, just be like, okay, this is a walled off area, like a field, or you've got woods. Tournament and Games Workshop's tournament boards already do have like this is how exactly to lay out the terrain down to the millimeter, although it's in inches, so down to the inch. And if you want the coasters, yes, the coasters, the objective markers, they'll work in Age of Sigmar. They'll work in anywhere else that's got a 3-inch area. Suppose they can work in like Conflict 47. I mean, Conflict 47 does well enough with terrain by just saying, hey, true line of sight, some terrain is dense and you can't shoot through it. Some terrain is going to give you a cover save. Otherwise, there is not a cover save. You don't get a save in Conflict 47. It's just a wound roll. It's a pretty difficult wound roll. It's usually like a 5 or a 6 in Conflict 47. 4 or 5 in bolt action. But they managed to make terrain work pretty well. Apart from the buildings, there's always now I need to read up how buildings work with this particular gun or with this particular gun. So there's a whole section on that. But dense terrain or just terrain generally, you cover the board in walls, trees. If there's anything in the way, you get like a 5+ cover save, essentially. Age of Sigmar will probably also abandon circular objectives. Yeah, I can see that happening. And then they will use terrain as the thing you want to take. Why not introduce gun ranges like in Infinity? Well, like 2nd edition had short range and long range. So like if you fire a las gun up to 12 inches, you get +1 to hit. 13 to 18 inches is standard. Then 19 to 24 inches is -1 to hit. They do like a lot of 2nd edition stuff. They're doing a, hey, remember 2nd edition? And most people are like, no, I don't remember 2nd edition. I remember 2nd edition. But very few people do. Right, so now we need to think about, is the competitive side or the narrative side going to win out on terrain? Is it going to be symmetrical? I think so. But tournament people are going to freak out if each separate table has area terrain of different sizes. Is it going to be fixed? Like if this terrain has to be exactly X inches by X inches, or is there going to be a range? Like this has to be at least 4 inches by 4 inches, but no more than 8 inches by 8 inches. If truly fixed in their size, like this is exactly 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches square, then are we just playing on square objectives rather than circles? And each table has to have like card for your ruins, and you've got to cut it down to make sure it fits. If you're playing narrative games, have you just swapped circles for squares? I'm saying them differently as if they're different or going to be different. Oh yeah, 3rd edition was very interesting in the different kinds of missions. Unfortunately, 3rd edition didn't work super well as it had a lot of hangovers from 2nd edition, like with the way movement worked. well, except it had like movement distances that you would need for second edition's games. However, movement worked differently. Rather than you move 4 inches and you can advance 8 inches, it had you move 6 inches and that's it. No advancing. So it took you longer to get across the board. Yes, I'm old. I remember second edition. Competitive group will just print out square rectangles. Yeah, of like a really particular kind. I mean, already we're getting comments on the Facebooks and the Reddits and Games Workshop's YouTube saying, tell us, please, I run a tournament, exactly what kind of size squares do we need? Now, when Games Workshop had shown off examples of like area terrain, the first one they started with was this. That is one of the area terrains. I mean, that looks like a piece of card that could be in the second edition starter set. Here is a piece of terrain. And as a starter set thing, that's fine. I want some actual terrain. I do not just want squares on a board with, you know, brown squares are terrain, white squares are open, brown squares are terrain, white squares are open. If you swap the brown for black, you're just playing chess. So that is one of their area terrains. But they also had other ones they showed off in quick succession. They had this, which is almost the same, but that's a triangle. Both are area terrain. Are they both going to be considered area terrain in games? And then it got, I don't know if you'd say, situation is even worse. Is this going to make tournament players freak out if that is the objective? And that looks to be 6 inches by 2 inches as your area terrain. Are there going to be different kinds? But that's what was on Games Workshop's video that was the scripted video, that was the preview video. The one where the presenter had no neck. Where he just stood exactly like this and occasionally looked around and talked. Awkward to be on camera. No, like, judgment there, but it just looked a bit awkward. So there's your different kinds of terrain that you might get. Well, terrain will be depleted and destroyed and forcing models to move and it'll deplete over time. I don't know about that. I don't know. Because taking models off and then swapping out the mat and then putting the terrain back on doesn't sound great. You can put things in like the wrong places very easily. When did we have vehicle hit areas? That was from 3rd edition, kind of in 2nd edition, I think. I mean, 2nd edition also had damage tables for each individual, like leg, gun, arm, and whatnot. But it was from 3rd edition through to 7th edition, there was vehicle facings. Ooh, welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, if Games Workshop doesn't do an official guidance of you have these exact pieces of terrain in these exact places and they are these exact sizes, then competitive community will look at the rules, they'll look at some of the pictures and say, okay, we try this, see how that goes, and then we'll go. You get 6 pieces of cardboard with every starter set. It's called the box. Well, you'll probably get, because think about the lid separate to the bottom of the box. So you get 4 sides plus 4 sides plus a top and a bottom. So there's your 10 pieces of terrain. There you go. I hope you don't have to cut the board up to make it. No more walls? Well, in my video about the inevitable end to L-shaped ruins, it is to not have any L-shaped ruins at all, just area terrain. And I hated that idea, so I didn't want to pursue it until I saw some of the UK TC terrain, which just has blank squares. And that's awful. If they only do flat mats, I would assume a lot of people, let's say narrative people, would put something on top of it. Just to say, this is a forest, you can tell because I put trees on it. This is a ruin because I put some L-shaped ruins on it. However, you don't count them for the purposes of line of sight and things like that. Just something that's there. Yeah, well, yeah. So tournament players will probably be told, let's just go with squares. Ah, the lid is elevated terrain. You know, they have done that before. It was at least the 9th edition's one of the, like, their starter sets, because they split up the starter sets into, like, recruit and initiate and intermediary, and that gave you some part of the starter set for 9th edition. The box was terrain. You used the inside of the box, flipped it upside down, and it looked like a building, sort of, with, like, little windows in. Yeah. Oh, so the bolt action starter set has the box as terrain piece. I mean, it's a sensible idea. Yeah, you just... How do you do it if it's meant to be flat area terrain? Tournament layout could just be a bunch of area terrain and that's about it. But then that could be even worse. If you look at tournament boards at the moment, if you go round, say, Adepticon, which I think has now ended, if you look at the Age of Sigmar boards, then they've got woods, they've got towers, they've got, like, ruined buildings. You go to any of the other ones, like Middle-earth, and you've got thatched roof houses. You've got walls. You get them in the starter set. Solid buildings in the starter set. And then you go to the 40k, and it's a lot of squares with L-shaped ruins and a lot of circles for the objective markers. I don't know if there'd be infinite height, because I think the idea would be make it so that some vehicles can get around. The Defiler is on a massive base. The new Defiler model looks huge. It probably is on a 160mm base. And so you've got to have ways for it to, like, get through the terrain, and then we've got to have rules like, okay, if you're partially in the terrain, does that count? How many models need to be in the terrain for you to get the 15-inch you can't shoot me? 100mm. Okay, that's still pretty big. And that's not an oval, that's a circle. It's huge. First Strike Force starter set for 8th edition came with cardboard box starter shipping container things. Good, good. I would love them to do, like they did in 2nd edition, have card ruins, and you make card ruins. That would be a 7-inch blast marker, or 6 inches plus 40mm. That's pretty huge as a blast marker. The blast markers from 3rd edition to 7th edition were 3 inches or 5 inches. And then you got, like, the Apocalypse ones, which probably were 7 inches. So yeah, that's hit everything on an objective marker. Huge. And the red measuring sticks, yeah, you use them to whip people. Capital punishment, corporal punishment, corporal punishment. Don't kill someone with the sticks. If they do less terrain, does that mean we might be able to see more of the board? Yeah, some of it's skipped because of terrain density. And then if they do, as I mentioned in my last video about the Maelstrom, you can start in ambush, which is something we had in 2nd edition. You could, like, start hidden, or you could start on Overwatch. Overwatch, the way that worked in 2nd edition, if you played boarding actions, it's basically the same. As an action, you go into Overwatch, you shoot in your opponent's turn rather than in your turn. Yeah, I mean, tournaments, you tend not to take the huge things, like Bane Blades, Shadow Swords. People don't take them because they can't really get around. When I've taken them before, it's been, okay, I have this, like, little quarter, and I can shift around and see some parts that are there and shoot out of it a little bit, but that's about it. If you're only 4'11", you can see more of the board without standing on your toes. Or on a box. Could be a box. And a lot of the, okay, we want vehicles to be able to move through terrain. Well, if it's all flat area terrain with nothing on it, then you can have vehicles move through. It's just so awkward if you've got nice boards that are like, here's my 6 by 7.5 inches square piece of card with terrain glued onto it. Or the, like, 4th, 5th edition terrain sets, which were multi-part things like the Imperium Sector City. And that's a solid building. Rather than being L-shaped ruins, which came out in the starter set in, what, 2018 for Kill Team? That starter set, that version of Kill Team? 2017 to 2019? Around then. Thank you for the happy channel birthdays. That's very appreciated. Yeah, have some actual things. Big vehicles can smash terrain off the board. They'll probably just say it can go into area terrain, through area terrain, move through it. Then they don't need to worry about all of these stratagems that are like, this vehicle is allowed to move through walls. because so many of the detachments are like, okay, we need something to get people to move through terrain and move through enemies and just stop movement blocking. I know people who play competitively especially are like, but that's a valid tactic. And it is a valid tactic. And blocking people off is reasonable if you're like, well, these cultists can't do anything, so they're just going to stand in front of you. However, it's so uninteractive when you can do that on the other side of a wall and you stop them moving through a wall. Or you just block them being in the way. So one of the stratagems in the Maelstrom book lets you move through enemy units. And then they're not movement blocking you. Then there is some interactivity. You have to spend a command point to do that, and you'll only do it with one unit. But you can get out. Yeah, jail lists. Games Workshop has hated jail lists as soon as they came out. Then there were more and more stratagems to stop Thunderwolf Jail and Genestealer Cult Jail and Gargoyle Tyrannid Jail, where you just move a load of models up to your opponent's deployment zone and they cannot move out in their first turn. And that's like, I came here to play a board game. And your opponent says, great, my tactic is to not let you play the board game. Let's have fun. I don't know about that. We also don't know if area terrain will block line of sight. Maybe only if it's area terrain. Maybe other things are just if they're solid or not. I like solid buildings. Destructible terrain is a mission parameter. Yeah, that could be good. That could be good. Yeah, you've got lots of infiltrating detachments. Imperial Agents tactics, yeah, you infiltrate 3 units, 3 big units, like the policemen with shields, like the naval people, and then kill teams. What I do is I infiltrate 3 kill teams, because I want to get in there and smash stuff rather than block the enemy. Yeah. So they'll probably do less terrain. I think terrain will probably still block line of sight. Are we going to keep hiding behind them? Probably should. Or at least be able to ambush. But then we could have like half the amount of terrain and in theory make boards a lot more beautiful. If it's destructible terrain, Games Workshop needs to sell terrain with removable tops. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't produced more terrain this edition. Maybe it's because, well, they do sort of do L-shaped ruins, but they haven't had terrain stuff that they release, whereas they have in previous editions. Loads and loads of stuff was terrain. But if it's going to be area terrain, they might just say, hey, here's some card. That's it. And they know that people can make their own card from cereal boxes. And we're back to 2nd edition, when everyone did a here's how to make hobby wargame terrain stuff. Let me see if it got that, because that's a fun book. There it is. Yeah, I've got it. I'm going to show it. That's the book. That's the best book. How to make wargames terrain. And all of this is like custom made. And it's how to make the trees from 2nd edition with a bunch of polystyrene, just a ball of polystyrene with cocktail sticks into it. How to make ruins, how to make your own area terrain, how to make shrines and buildings. Now people don't do that as much. Because you can buy stuff pre-done. And it looks good when it's done. You're not spending a lot of time doing a hobby thing. Not everyone likes making terrain. They just like the models. So if you're spending time making terrain, it's like, I've got to do this. Or you could put books on a table. That just doesn't look right, though. That looks about as right as a blank board, which is only area terrain. Totally legal PDFs. Yeah. The chicken wire ladder? Yeah, so that was where you buy some chicken wire, you cut the ends off, you twist it a bit and put it into like, I think it's like a Pringles can. You stick it in that and then you have a realistic looking ladder of about the right size and then you can get onto this tower and the tower blocks line of sight. So many terrain pieces I've seen on tables, which looks good, is where you've got like a chocolate tin And then you got on top of that another tin, and they're just glued together. Poster board, wooden sticks, yeah. Second edition had colourful, pre-done terrain. Let's see if I've got that as easily accessible. I might not. Oh, I think I do. Okay. I can show that off. So I can show you exactly what you got in the second edition starter set. There it is. So there's your push out terrain, and then you just fold it along the lines. And that is also your card dreadnought. Orc dreadnought. There's a model. It's a card model. In the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent, you got a Goblin. It was Grom the Paunch, I think, on Goblin Chariot, and a high elf bolt thrower. So there's the kind of terrain they have done in the past. They could do that again, and it would look good, and it would be a full game in itself. Nothing extra to buy. Whereas the last few editions, it's been, you need to buy, well, terrain, you need to buy more dice probably, a lot more things you need to buy. Tape measures, oh, you know, you got the little sticks, you got like the 12-inch sticks, they've been cut down to 9 inches. Is the Cardboard Dreadnought tournament legal? It depends on the tournament. Some places are like, if it's a Games Workshop model, you can do it. And if it was sold by Games Workshop, then there you go. Games Workshop will sell battle mats with terrain printed on them. They could do, but what size are they going to be? 44 inches by 30, and you need to buy 2 of them to make it work? And they probably do something like that for Combat Patrol, because they do that exact thing for Spearhead. The objective markers, well, it's objective markers in that case, are already on the board. And then you put on the actual plastic bits of terrain on the board for that. They also do the same thing for the fantasy equivalent of Kill Team. Have some solid terrain. And you do get solid terrain in the Kill Team starter set. Replace the real terrain with razor wire. Well, that's going to hurt putting back in the box. If you do any of the like Blue Peter stuff, like Neil Buchanan's, what was Neil Buchanan's show? Art Attack. So it was how to make Barbie's dollhouse out of a shoebox. So many times I saw that on the BBC. Yeah, it was really good. Nothing extra to buy. We assume use place in second edition. Yes. There's also comments of, okay, this is the 10th new edition that Games Workshop was done for 40k. They must be getting the rules right by now. And the response is, no one who plays 40k would think that. You're a fake fan. Get him. Oh my. So silly. What was I saying? Yeah, so area terrain. It'll probably block line of sight. As well as if you're in it, you can't be shot over 15 inches. It might be that Games Workshop heard us say, L-shaped ruins are not what you think, or not what we think, are important to the game. Don't do L-shaped ruins. And they said, okay, I've got it. We're removing objective markers so that L-shaped ruins are the objectives now, and so they become more important to you in the game. Have tanks ram buildings? I could see. I think it works just well in bolt action to do that. It's fun. It's sort of a, I want to do this cool thing, and you look for the section of the rules where you can do it. If Games Workshop is trying to continue a simplified game, I don't think they'll do enough to say there's an intact building, you can change it to a ruined building, you can change it to nothing. They're not going to do the 40k equivalent of a French village, where everyone has to get a French village. Everything is a sealed building, you have to go up and around or get on top. That would mean you need to spend more movement getting around. If it's still going to be a 5-turn game, and it probably is, I can't see them wanting to extend the game length. Thank you for subscribing. Games are already too long. as most people believe. And tournament players are like, we want to get more things in, so you need to learn to play faster and just do it, just get it done, and skip that, and don't do this, and just shove the models in a place. We know we play by intent just to get the game through, also because it's nicer. Concerned how new missions interact with terrain. We'll think about missions in a minute. Important things with the 15 inches, you cannot fire if you're over 15 inches. That means that indirect fire can only shoot things out in the open. I know the purpose of like artillery, like a basilisk, is to level buildings and anyone in the building. Apparently not. Apparently you're just hitting them out in the open, which is more the job of light mortars. So at least they can do their job. Yeah, maybe L-shaped ruins will still stick around, but other things will exist. This is the L-shaped objective in the room with us. Oh, you've got pizza-shaped objectives, from the look of it. If Games Workshop is saying, hey, look at this, it's, well, like triangle-shaped, that's kind of a pizza shape. You could claim that's pizza-shaped. That could be what we're fighting over in the future. Take that half bit of building. It would be a mix of hive spires and craters. Some hive spires, some craters. Make a trench board? Could be, could be. Pizza-shaped objectives? Yeah, a full pizza. It's made up of like 6 of them triangles. And that's a circle. Triangles are L-shaped. That is kind of L-shaped. L-shaped area terrain. There you go. The L's persist. If area terrain is like that, and you can't shoot people if they're within 15 inches, so does that mean that indirect fire is not going to be as good? So can indirect fire weapons be cheaper? Can I have an exorcist for fewer points, please? That'd be good. That'd be nice. Not all the units can hide, I assume. They definitely said the infantry can hide. I don't know if they said anything else in particular. There's like some units can hide. And they showed off a lictor. I'll put in what they said. Which was like on their slide. So there it was, right. It's now much easier to hide units that have not yet joined the fight. So I'm looking at the Maelstrom rules in the Maelstrom campaign book, where it's 18 inches. If you go second, you cannot have any part of your army shot outside of 18 inches. Any of them. And then once you get your turn, your tanks, your monsters, they can all be shot. Other units like infantry and beasts and swarms, they can't be shot unless they shoot or charge or move. In that case, also move. So it might be a lot like that. So you're within the terrain, it's 15 inches, you can't be seen. If you shoot, if you declare a charge, then you can be seen. If the Euro beat is too loud, I can turn it down a bit. It is looking like it's a little bit too loud. There we go. Stealth might have new abilities. Stealth might just be, when you're in the open, you get Stealth 12. I don't know if they do Stealth 9. If they did like Stealth 9, that would make the Reductor Saboteur much better. And the Kellamorph, because the reactive move and the you need to be this close to shoot me would be the same. Hello, Misfit. We had hidden as a rule in 2nd edition. You could, if you like didn't do anything as essentially an action, you could you become hidden, and then you cannot be targeted unless you're within initiative range, or like double initiative range. That would mean initiative would have to be a stat, so you'd have to have something different. It would just be a set distance for this edition. With the lurk rule, does that mean you'd be able to lurk in true line of sight? Or deploy with the intent to lurk? Everything is lurking even if you're in the open. That's how it is in this Maelstrom book. So you're in the open, there could be no terrain on your side at all. If you're more than 18 inches away, then you cannot be shot at. So yeah, indirect fire will be hurt by hidden, but it depends how much terrain is on the board. Otherwise, they can only shoot really, really close-up things. Or if someone fires out of terrain, then they're not hidden anymore. Then you can fire back at them. You might end up waiting for the enemy to move and do something before you do. We get that quite a lot on tournament situations. They're like, okay, the game lasts for 5 turns. Neither of us wants to go out, so I'll send one unit to the middle. Oh, you tried to kill them, and then you sent one unit to a different objective. Okay, I'll kill them. And then it's like turn 4, and you've still got almost all of your army, and you've barely fought each other. And then you do a quick rush for the end. That's more the person going second, because they'll get the points. Whereas the person going first will have to at least come out in turn 4 to score at the start of turn 5. And that becomes less likely. That sort of KG, I'll wait and see what happens, works for the player going second. So if you deep strike right out in the open 18 inches away, you'd be fine. In the Maelstrom rules, if you're infantry or beasts, yes, you'd be fine. Until the enemy moves within 18 inches and shoots you. Yeah, the 11th edition preview said it was terrain to be hidden, but they also said, oh, I've taken it away now. What else did it say? Hide units that have not yet joined the fight. So yes, that might be just terrain, or it could be the same thing as Maelstrom. So if you're going second, your entire army is hidden, which means that they don't have the person who goes first shoots and wipes everything out. Meaning you don't need as much terrain. That is an interpretation of it, especially with the rules that already exist in the Maelstrom book. Yeah, deep striking, you didn't remain stationary, I suppose. Yeah, so it wouldn't work with Maelstrom, because you have to remain stationary, not shoot for it to do. Yeah, so you'd have to rapid ingress, I suppose. I don't know how it would work exactly. I'd have to think about that. Okay, we'll get into detachments. One other thing with terrain, final thing with terrain, maybe final thing with terrain. I mean, has anyone played Kill Team? Do you get a lot of one side starts hidden or everyone starts hidden, and until you move up closer, then you can't really be shot. So you don't want to go first, or you don't want to be the first one to move your pieces up, because then you'll be the first one to get shot. If anyone's played Kill Team, is that a problem in Kill Team? Where you just end up standing around and nothing happens? If that's not so much a problem in Kill Team, then hey, we have no issue in 40k. Otherwise, they're taking elements of Kill Team. Yeah, the first turn tends to be staging. Okay, happens quite a bit in Kill Team. Yeah. First turn is where you set up, you move a bit closer, you don't fight or shoot or anything. You just put your disposable units out. But there is a lot of terrain, I suppose. We just don't know how much terrain is going to be on boards. And we don't know if Games Workshop's going to suggest an amount of terrain. Otherwise, it'll take a few months for people to figure it out. And then tournaments will figure it out. Yeah. A lot of getting shot because you didn't quite understand the rules. That's going to happen. That's definitely going to happen. But also, when you're in terrain, you are -1 to be hit if you can be hit. That's better, usually, than sometimes upping the armor save. It means that Terminators can get a 2+ save and also get a benefit. -1 to be hit. So there's a bit more value for them being in cover. Flamers! Flamers can do their job. -1 to hit, well, Flamers auto-hit. So they are actually good at clearing enemies out of cover. When they introduced obscuring in Age of Sigmar, there's a lot of, oh yeah, shooting is dead, everything's terrible. If you're within 1 inch of terrain, you can't be shot. Yeah, because you've still got to clear terrain, clear enemies off that, and then score. Yeah. And objectives and terrain are not in the same place in Age of Sigmar. That is why. That is something else. So you can put a unit in terrain in Age of Sigmar ready to go onto an objective or charge onto an objective, which is going to not get shot, whereas the one sitting on objectives can be shot. Games Workshop is stealing Warlord Games rules. I've noticed some of that. Yeah. If they do that with Overwatch, they might need to change how it works. The problem with interrupted movement, like from Overwatch, it means the enemy has to stop so far and place the models, then you can measure range, and then do they get to continue their movement or not? So it working at the start or end of a movement is why it's so much better. So you can say, okay, this is where the models are, I shoot them, they move, okay, there is a final position of the models, I can shoot them. It's okay in Kill Team because it makes the first turn faster. I mean, I like that in 40k sometimes. You get that in Warhammer Fantasy. The first turn is you're out of range for spells, you just march forward, and then second turn, third turn, some of the fourth turn, that's when the real combat happens. You could absolutely rush towards the enemy with everything. Yeah, you could do. There'll be a lot of tactics to try. Yeah, right, let's talk about these detachments. So, Games Workshop said, word for word, we are announcing 70 new detachments. That's what they said in the live stream. That then did not follow through into the article. So, that's also the words they put. 70 new detachments. What they said then in the article was it was new and updated detachments. 70 new and updated. Not the same thing. Those are not the same thing. And then a further pre-recorded video came out saying new and updated. 50 for the Space Marines, 1 for every other unit. Yeah. Yeah, that's across all the armies. How many current detachments are there? I think it's like 120. Something like that. So, your codex is still usable, your 10th edition codex is still usable in 11th edition until your 11th edition codex comes out. The Space Marine codex will be the first one. At least half of them will be modified existing detachments. Do you know that for sure, Blue Cho? Or are you just guessing that? I don't remember them saying half of them are for modifying. Guessing. Okay, good. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. If we had even that many new detachments, that's a lot of bloated rules. And while they are modular, so there's a choice of ones to pick. You pick one, it's not that each detachment is stacked onto another detachment and you have to remember everything. You pick one, you get your 6 stratagems, you get your 4 enhancements, of which you can have 3. You have 1 detachment rule. That works. Every army gets a Marneus Calgar. That's a lot of Marneus Calgars. They did show off the Gravis Marneus Calgar in that video. I think they've got Legends rules. They might not even have Legends rules anymore. Does Marneus Calgar still exist in any form in his Gravis armor? I'm going to have a look. I'm interested enough to check. Because sometimes people say, oh, he went to Legends, and what they mean is the rules were deleted, rather than his rules are now there with a Legends tag. Which is what you should say when you say Legends. So, show Legends. No core stratagems, don't you see that? We have... I'm not seeing him. No. And for the... Big man, Marneus Calgar. Oh, okay, there's 2 Marneus Calgars. There's basic Marneus Calgar. It's probably going to take some time to load. And then there's Marneus Calgar in the armor of Antilochus. Right, that's his toughness 6 version. Marneus Calgar in the armor of Antilochus. Is that the Gravis one? No, that's the Terminator one. Okay. And that's where he's by himself. Right. Okay. So, okay, they do both exist and seem to neither be Legends. You can just only have one at a time. I don't know what people are talking about. They use the word Legends so liberally. Right, Codex is going from 10th edition to 11th edition. Hey, that's good. It means the stuff I'm making for like January. Still 2 more detachment videos to go. I don't think they're going to come out this week. Even though I finished all the playtesting for Outlander Claw, I'm on with playtesting final day, I'm making a script for Outlander Claw, and then I'm going to do the video and edit it. Yeah. So that's all still valuable. That's good. That's great. It means you can just keep going. I know people would be like, okay, well, I'd like a new detachment or something new. Hey, give us 2 or 3 new detachments. We know how detachments work. Just give us 3 for every faction and go from there and make them modular. No. I mean, they're already modular, kind of modular. You pick one detachment, your army is that detachment. You don't have 30 to 60 stratagems as you did in 9th edition. There are 6. And that is it. No tactical squads being dead is not confirmed. Shush. You just like being a tease, Valor and the Lost. Right. What did they say? What else did they say? Let me check the notes. Yeah, there's a lot of choice. Okay, massive choice for Space Marines. A lot of people might just pick Gladius. I would say they would strip out detachments, which they may do for the Space Marines, but only when their codex comes out. Then they might keep the chapter detachments, like the Ultramarine version of Gladius Task Force, would get rid of Gladius Task Force, and then have the customizable other detachments. Is Crucible stuff staying? We don't know. We don't know. I see no reason why it wouldn't be compatible with the next set of rules. I don't know if they'll expand on it. Centurions need destroying. Centurions need to not exist anymore. They're a blight upon the world. And Paul knows I believe this. Yeah, they said all of the campaign books detachments would stay. Not necessarily all rules in the detachments. So Crucible of stuff, I think you can still use it. We don't know if they'll expand on it. A tactical squad refresh would probably be in their post-launch refresh range. Yes, I expect so. Along with bikes, along with all the stuff that's in the new starter box, which is going to be like the Vanguard veterans. Sure. Probably gets expanded to tournament legal level. I don't think it would, because it's a campaign book for one specific area, hypothetically. Yeah, it would be great. I could see tactical squads rolling into intercessors, or vice versa. Yeah. Long live Frankencessors. Well, we got the... I mean, just look at how much better the Mark 10 intercessor types look with a Space Marine Mark 7 or Mark 8 helmet. That's what they could have just done. Have the Mark 7, Mark 8 helmet, and I don't think people would have minded as much. Slightly bigger Space Marines, recognizable helmet, we're all good. I mean, I like the backpack. I think the backpack is very good. I don't like the chest with the, like, pec shelf or boob shelf, where it's like, it's got layers, one of which is for the Aquila. And the Greaves are fine. I can go either way on the Greaves. I like the pointy, like, Mark 6 Greaves. I think they're the best ones. But I could just buy Mark 6 models, and I have. Mark 7 Gravis helmets. Oh, just put it on. Just do it. Why not? There's so many older bits going around. And we saw it with the new Space Wolf stuff as well. The Blood Claws, the Grey Hunters, they all have some, like, beaky helmets, some Mark 7 helmets in there. Mark 8 and Mark 7 look very similar. If you've played Space Marine 2 and you try and compare them, yeah, there's very little between them. But the Mark 8 helmets were for Deathwatch Kill Team, and they haven't really continued more than that. How do you think the Imperial Guard will do in 11th? It sounds like they'll be great if it's go capture area terrain with your infantry, a lot more space to move tanks, shoot, stay in your deployment zone and score victory points. Sounds good. Now, some of the detachments will be like modular, build it yourself, made of smaller ones. Super specialized detachments could be part of an army instead of a whole army in themselves. So, I mean, the Penitent Host, it doesn't feel quite right, like you don't have enough troops that work, and the points for Repentia are not good in other detachments. It's like they were pointed for working at their best in the Penitent Host. The Gene Stealer cult ones are very similar. Bikes and transports work in one detachment. Not so great in others. They're pretty good, but that's an example. the Patriarch works in 2 detachments and not so much in the others. So maybe they could add, if we could add like a Penitent half detachment to another detachment, you would have good and affordable Repentia. I like that idea, mixing the 2 things together. What they said in the pre-recorded video was, these are only in quotation marks, larger standard 2,000 points that we know people like to play at tournaments. So maybe like 2,000 points is going to be the maximum they recommend, which it kind of has been for a while. There's been rules for 3,000 points in the early Crusade books, like Leviathan, Prior Nexus. There was some 3,000 point missions, but usually like 1, 2, or 3 missions. Now they've stopped doing that. In your mission deck, your 2025, 2026 mission deck, then there was nothing. There's no 3,000 point games. The game stops working as well at 3,000 points, but then again, they are bringing out this Eye of Terror supplement campaign, which is meant to have Apocalypse games in it. Interesting stuff. That's going to come out far too soon. I haven't even started playing the Maelstrom ones yet, but at least you can play like 4 missions of that and do a whole campaign of it in a day. So we're planning to do like mission 5, 6, 8, and 9, and that'll be it. Everyone does that. Then it's done. That'd be good. Now, what you shouldn't do with this modular thing is don't assume you can have it in 1,000 points. It may be that for every 1,000 points of the game, you can have one of these detachments and you can like combine them together. They're not going to update all the detachments. That's the, unless they're like, okay, kill certain detachments, but no, they can't, because they said all the Codex ones and the ones in the campaign books are going to stay, unless they're like the Grottimus ones don't stick around anymore. That'd be like Final Day, Champions of Faith, the Freebooter crew, Orc ones like that. I don't think they'll be doing that either, because there is quite a bit of flavor in them. Not sure. Some of the updating might just be we change some of the stratagems so that they work. Yeah, I'm playing 1,500 points. That's a detachment and a half. Only the vowels in the other half. No, I want the consonants. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it could be that way. Could be that way. So you might do, okay, standard ones. These are your like 6 standard detachments, thinking of like Genestealer Cult. And then here's 3 extra modular ones so you can mix a bit of the other ones. Won't necessarily be good. There's been some updates for the Genestealer Cult to kind of make them work. Occasionally, after the Codex came out and they're like, oh, this is just bad. This does not work. We're on like 40% win rate and we're doing shenanigans and they're still not working right with the detachment rule. Then they changed the detachment rule again and they changed it again 3 months later. Oh my. Hey, yeah, I would love a stick in some Brood Brothers, stick in some Tyranids. I would like that. Having modular detachments like that, yeah. Then you need to have like a baseline detachment, which could be like Host of Ascension. I'd rather it wasn't Host of Ascension. That's a good full detachment by themselves. I know they'll be changing some. 70 new and updated. Some will be updated. Now, don't assume that you can swap out any of the bad stuff for good stuff. Don't assume you can say, okay, I don't use these 3 stratagems, so get rid of them, and instead we will add 3 other stratagems from another detachment. Games Workshop decides what you can do, not you, unless you play for fun, which isn't allowed because everyone now has to play the same way. We're doing narrative and also competitive at the same time. Need it to be flavorful, not good? Ah, a Brood Brothers detachment enjoyer. It's kind of fun, that one. If every detachment had a primary and secondary option, they just had like 2 add-on options. I can see that. Like, here's a baseline half detachment, and then you can add 1 of 3 other bits. Would they count that as 4 detachments or not? Or they would be modular, like, okay, this is the half Terminator detachment, this is the half bike detachment, this is the half battle line detachment. And you can put 2 of them together. Then you'd have like 2 detachment rules, 3 stratagems for each. I think people would probably do that in 2,000 points for sure. But they said it was only for larger, standard 2,000 points. Maybe they are thinking of tournament games. I hope it would work for lower points values. Otherwise, we'll just do it at like 1,500 points. Just do it. 2 half detachments per army plus some extras. Yeah. Yeah. They might not have a detachment rule included. They probably should, though. If you want to make it about a particular thing. Like Outlander Claw, the detachment rule is what makes the bikes work. Bastion Task Force, it's the detachment rule that makes the battle line units work. And then you've got your stratagems on top of that. So maybe you can't have Brood Brothers as an add-on detachment. Maybe you can't have Harlequins. They just might not be an add-on detachment. If you want to play with a half detachment, you've got to play 1,000 points. I mean, that could kind of work. You just want Harlequins, there's your 1,000 points. You can make a Harlequin half detachment from that. 2,000 points, you have to add on another half detachment from Eldar or Dark Eldar. It's a way of doing it. It's a way of doing it. Brood Brothers might not be an add-on detachment, which would be good. So maybe you can't have Outlander Claw with Brood Brothers tanks and transports. Maybe you have to split the army. Yeah, that could work. That could work. Split your army into 2 1,000 point lists, and each of them has a different detachment rule. Right, now that sounds more like 9th edition. I'll assume that a lot of you started playing in 10th edition. I think like 50% of my audience only started in 10th edition, which is understandable. Yeah, Brood Brothers in the final day, that'd be funny. Someone out there is really dedicated and is using the same half detachment twice at 2,000 points. Yeah, I could see that. But the 2 detachments and they each do a different thing sounds like 9th edition. So in 9th edition, you had each detachment, which was like a force organization chart that gave you some command points. Then you could also add a sub-faction to that. So for the sisters, you might have one detachment is Bloody Rose. And there you would put your Repentia and your Sacrosancts and your Seraphim. They had bonus AP to pistol weapons and melee weapons. So they all go over there. And then another part of your army would be in a different order, like Sacred Rose that has better heavy weapons, or a custom order detachment that has rerolls to hit, and you get to reroll 1 hit roll and reroll 1 wound roll per activation. I kind of thought we were past this, and we would only have like stratagem remixes or detachment rule remixes. But if you're like 2 halves that work, we might be going back to, yeah, this is the... You wouldn't have to repaint them at least. You wouldn't have to do that. You wouldn't have to say, okay, I have to paint them red because they're Bloody Rose and I need to have the right models painted the right color. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I could see that. Imperial Agents half detachment going into any Imperial faction. Ooh. I can see that. I can see that. Or, yeah, doubles. Each of you gets half a detachment, but it has to be playing the same army. That sounds less fun. Yeah. The Bloody Rose Sisters got a bonus to movement speed. I don't remember that. I mainly played Sacred Rose, because if it wasn't a tournament, I was like, everything's going to be Sacred Rose. Or take the sub-faction that is, you follow the tenements of one of the major orders, which also happens to be Sacred Rose. What you might end up doing is, okay, this was something that you got at tournaments as well. You would paint the rims of a base in different colors, or you would put like an elastic band around them to say, this one is from this detachment and they get this bonus. This other one has this other detachment, so like a Battle Sister squad is Bloody Rose, so they get bonus AP on their combat knives and their bolt pistols. This other one is Sacred Rose, so they can have sustained hits if they remain stationary. And you've got to paint the rims of the base so you can see which ones are in which detachment. You played Ebon Chalice to fix the bad dice. That was good. You got to like change things into a 6. I kind of remember that. I mean, it's been About 3 years since I last played 9th edition. Yeah. Now, was there another thing? Yeah. Let's see what they actually put on the new detachment system. Don't need that anymore. That one, right. Yeah, so this is the new modular detachment system that we've been talking about. Nothing else interesting. No, yeah. No other slides from Games Workshop there. If they want to go for easier and quicker games, not necessarily how it's going to work. Everyone gets like 2 new detachments, but Space Marines and others get more, maybe. Yeah, so auxiliary Chaos Demons attached to other things. Yeah, that could work. So the Chaos Demons changes, and now you have a bunch of half detachments. You could have like the core, the basic demon detachment is now a half detachment, and then you add in either another one of the same or more of the like gods. Although if you want like a Slanesh and Khorne army, you could do that. If you want a everything but especially Nurgle, you would take the base detachment and the Nurgle detachment. People really liked 9th edition Bloody Rose, and then they got their own supplement in White Dwarf, and that just made them extra powerful. There was also Crusher Stampede in a White Dwarf and a Canoptic Court in White Dwarf. Yeah, so list building... Yeah, that might be like, say in the Crucible, the Maelstrom book, you can have 1 epic hero, up to 4 battle line units. You can have, 4 of the same battle line unit. You can have 1 of each kind of vehicle or monster. You can have 2 of each kind of like everything else, like basic infantry that isn't battle line or bikes. You could do that, and then also have another detachment that lets you do that again. So it's a lot more like 9th edition. Remember that when they were writing these 11th edition rules, they were probably only 6 months to a year out of 9th edition. So 9th edition would still be very much in their minds. Whereas the people writing the rules for like the Maelstrom book now, they'll be thinking in terms of 11th edition because that is what is in their head. Like, hey, we know this, this thing that already works because we're going to do it for next edition. What if we did it now? That is a lot like the Horus Heresy detachment builder. Okay, they might do it a bit like that. You've got a character, you've got some units. It's similar to how Age of Sigmar worked. It was just a bit more confusing, or it took more time compared to how it has been in 10th edition, where you just have up to 3 of a unit or up to 6 of a unit. Yeah, I'm curious to see how these detachments will work. At some point, they will show off half detachments. And then we'll start playing them for fun, because they'll be like, it'll probably be a Space Marine one. Might not be, but it could be. Or it could be an Imperial Agent one. Ooh. What if you don't get army rules, you only get detachment rules? Yeah, they might then move, when the codexes come out, into all detachments are half a detachment. If you're playing 1,000 points, you get to use 1 half detachment. If you're playing 2,000 points, you get 2 half detachments. But then the people who already have a codex, well, that still use a codex from 10th edition, will get to use the bigger ones, the better ones. Maybe not better, definitely not newer, but the ones that kind of work for everything, maybe, like Host of Ascension kind of works for everything. Hallowed Martyrs is very combat focused, but it can work for a lot of things. Horus Heresy is also only 4 game turns, isn't it? Right, they've also said that scoring and like your mission will be based on your faction and detachment. They could go back to card-themed decks. This was something they had in like 8th and 9th edition. There was faction-specific cards. So 9th edition faction missions, the sisters always protect a shrine because you get loads of points. You pick one objective marker in No Man's Land, that is a shrine. every turn that you hold that objective, you get a bunch of points. That could be just one of your faction missions. Do I then have to play a different detachment if I don't want every board to have a shrine demanding my blood? Maybe. Yeah, I quite liked the cards though. They were good. Or you might get more like Kill Team. Each army has, or each detachment has 2 symbols, and that dictates your mission. So if you've got the skull symbol, then you get points for killing your enemy. If you've got the dagger symbol, then you get points for sabotaging or something. So that's a system that's from Kill Team, but there's no cards in that version of Kill Team. It's just a bunch of missions that you have to do in the book. And you get, there's like basically 4 different ways you can score victory points for each one, if I remember my 2 games of Kill Team from this edition. People who play Kill Team, please tell me in the comments. That would be better. That would make more sense. Full detachments with primary and secondary set of rules. That would be a lot more work. That would be another thing they could balance, or they might only balance that. Like if they're saying, oh, these Necrons are too strong with their Catan, this Tau with their Twin Lance is too much. Okay, we'll just tweak the secondaries a bit because people keep taking the Twin Lance. But what if you weren't taking the Twin Lance? What if you weren't taking Catan? Then life has just got harder for you. I didn't like that. What detachment would you recommend for running a Terminator army? There's the First Company Task Force. That has some bonuses for Terminators, but I'd probably stick with Gladius Task Force, honestly. Advance and shoot 1 time, advance and charge 1 time. That works, yeah. The Raven Guard one, yeah. Shadow Mark Talon or something like that. Or you've got the Iron Hands one or the Imperial Fist ones. They're both very Terminator focused. Right, what we don't know about the missions is if these missions are primary missions or secondary missions. Does that mean that the missions are going to be very simply written out? Like the missions in White Dwarf. Do they have a map? Do they not have a map? Do they have primary missions written out or do they not? They just rely you on you're playing your army and that's about it. Yeah, but in the Bastion Task Force, you can only make 1 Terminator unit battle line. Don't think they'll all be modular, just that you can mix and match some in yeah, that's how the detachments will work. In that video they said you can mix and match in larger games, in larger quotation marks, standard quotation marks, which don't seem to be compatible words, and then quotation marks 2,000 points. Do you think the new Inquisitor could be a Jackal Alpha? Well, Jackal Alphas, I think. Sniper like that. That would work. A Jackal Sniper rather than a basic Atlan Jackal. Soup detachment that's just final day, but you take Astra Militarum on nids? Yeah, that could work. That could absolutely work, I think. We don't really need the current Brood Brothers Auxilia detachment. But I hope it sticks around. I mean, the Codex is meant to be compatible, so that detachment's got to be there. I'm just reading comments. Bear with. Yeah. So they might do missions really simply. The missions in the Maelstrom are just like, here's where the objectives start. They're all scored at the end of the game though, and there are rules about taking the objectives and moving with the objectives. So it's not going to be like that if the terrain is the objective. Thank you for your kind comment. If they replace secondary missions, so if the missions itself are still primary missions, if the missions that are then determined by your faction and detachment are secondary missions, then you have no more drawing cards. And I liked drawing cards. I liked the, oh, I wonder what mission I'm going to get to do here. I've got such an army that can do so many different things. Yes, a lot of them are actions, a lot of them are getting into the right place. Genestealer Cult, I was very good with the Genestealer Cult, scoring all these secondary missions. If we lose the secondary mission cards, and it's basically fixed missions, then you'll have like 4 fixed missions on the table. And you can score each of them. You'll have to track how often you score them. And yeah, that's just 9th edition. But I think you only had 3 missions in 9th edition for your secondaries. And it was stuff like, some of them could be really specific. Get this particular unit onto this objective. Or Chaos was like, defile the shrine. You have to kill an enemy unit in melee on an objective marker. Which you would do. But doing points upkeep from the game as you go can slow it down a little bit. I don't think it's that bad. They mentioned on their app there will be an idea so you can use the app to play a game against someone else. And you will see all of the units in that army. It would be funny if you still had to pay for your own units. Otherwise, hey, can I borrow your phone for this game? Or I'll input your army into my phone as me, and then I am your opponent, and then I can at least see my own rules. Yeah, it makes sense for some armies. To not do the mission cards and not set up teleport home if you're world eaters. They do want to kill. Yeah, what are the Tyranids doing setting up a objective marker? Like doing a ritual. No, that doesn't sound right. Is that setting up a digestion pool? You could argue that you can make your own narrative from it. I've wanted to put like consoles onto objective markers in the center so that you need to get there and type in some numbers. Or you've got civilians and it's an access point to an underground shelter. And so the good guys or the Imperium or the owners of the planet want to get to these shelters, get the people out and evacuate them, and that's why you're scoring victory points. It's the number of people who have escaped. Your opponent wants to get there, get inside, and kill those civilians. Something like that. Don't buy the codex. Yeah, don't buy the codex. That's probably what it's going to be. Just don't buy the codex. They have been doing a lot of the rules to play the game are free online. Like with all of these campaign books, that's where we've got all of the detachments are just free from Games Workshop. The unit rules, all free. They posted the Defiler rule today. Then you've got some background and some art. Yes, physical books can be nice. Some people like that. You can buy the codex. I think they'll still do a codex, but I don't think there'll be much of a need to. Right. Now, if these armies are going to determine your, say, primary mission, rather than your secondary mission, how are tournaments going to run out? Because they're not going to do, okay, it's round 2, we're all doing, let's think of a mission name. I can't think of a mission name. Take and hold the line, something like that. If it's not all the same, and your mission is determined by your symbols on your detachment and your opponent's detachment symbols for what you score, what they score, everyone's going to be playing a different game. If there's imbalance at all in the missions, that's going to be a big factor. I do like that as an idea. So it could be, if there's a particular style of play that you like your stealthy people are extra stealthy and they're doing sabotages rather than going in and killing people, then you can get good at that. If you like the fast bike transport vehicle detachment, then you score victory points for that because you're good at doing the thing that you want to do. And yes, the codexes always need a pre-release FAQ at the moment. How your detachment determines missions isn't going to change round to round, just who you're matched up with in their mission. Yeah, but it could be like, here's your 4 fixed secondary missions. So rather than drawing cards, it's like 4 things that you do and you score victory points for each of them, which is like a 9th edition thing. Or if it's a more of a primary mission, then you have a fixed primary mission. And then how do we work secondaries? Is that still cards? I've liked the cards. The cards are good. Tournament standard might have set missions, or whichever one, primary or secondary, is not the one determined by your army, then they have it fixed. Yeah, that could be. That could be. We don't know how many missions will be like in the core rulebook. 10th edition just had a kill the enemy mission. That was terrible. Just that one mission. Go back to 6th edition, and there are 6 different missions in the core rules. 7th edition had 12. 6 of them with random cards, 6 of them with fixed objectives that you scored at like the end. We do need Celestian squads back. Celestians with guns, yeah. Current Age of Sigmar. Oh, tell me about Age of Sigmar, how it works at the moment. They have 6 secondary cards you pick from at the start that each have 3 objectives themed around killing and scouting, etc. Right, so it might be, here's your 6 different types, each of which has 3 objectives. Your detachment might be a particular symbol. Your army might be a particular symbol. And so you get to pick one of those 2 as your mission. So you can go something focused on the army theme, like Genestealer Cult is very sabotagey, very board control-y, or you can go for a speed related one. So you go for the Outlander Claw, get into the enemy's deployment zone, that sort of thing. It could be weird and you get 2 primary missions based on players' armies, detachments. Yeah, maybe. But then you both score the same way? Sabotage control panel, prevent sabotage of control panel? Could be a grid thing, yeah. So it could be a grid, so cross-reference your symbol with the enemy symbol, and that determines your primary mission. That would mean that if your 2 armies are facing each other, then you will always play the same primary mission. Kill Team has... yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's probably going to be more like Kill Team, where you have 2 archetypes. Is that all the different archetypes? Recon, Defense, Seek and Destroy, and Infiltration. Those 5. Because I'm showing Seek and Destroy are 2 separate things. 3 missions for each archetype. Yes. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot like that. Kill Team seems to have gone down pretty well as a rules system for this edition of Kill Team. Yeah, detachment affects what kind of mission you get. We just don't know if it's primary or secondary mission. And if that's gonna... I assume that's not going to affect the kind of, like, the number of terrain pieces on the board. That'll be a separate card. So that's something that you can at least determine for tournaments. Like, everyone will be playing on... well, you can't change it round by round. That's going to take too long. They don't like doing that. What they did in the past was like, okay, each board has a set number of terrain pieces set up in a way. So this board has like 12 pieces. This one has 10 pieces of terrain. This one has 8. This one has 6. You're going to change table each game so that you're on like one of the different kinds. But yeah. Then it's at least a bit... yeah, okay, yeah, that's how they used to do it. Like each board has its own map, essentially. Sisters will win the game by dying in 11, just like the books. Yeah, maybe. Hey, go bleed and die on this objective marker, you get victory points. Martyrdom? Yeah, martyrdom. Novitiates are already out of rotation. Yeah, what they did there was... they have essentially a tournament thing. Imagine Legends, but in reverse. Rather than there is standard 40k, and then also, and like standard 40k is what you use at tournaments. In normal 40k, you can also have Legends. They reverse that, and they say, there is this one particular keyword type thing that you need to play in tournaments. So it's like a tournament compatible rules. It's a good way of saying there is normal and there is tournament, and that's different. And the Novitiates are now not tournament compatible, but you can still buy the box as normal Novitiates. How long do kill teams normally last? This is for like tournaments. You can still use them otherwise as long as they've got rules. I don't know if all of them have rules. Galapox Infected might not have rules. Otherwise it'll be like an addition. It'll be rotating them in and out every 3 years. Yeah. Most events still let you use the older kill teams go. That's good. I like that. Right, I think we've talked about detachments enough. Especially when it comes to kill team. But I think that might do a kill team style thing or an Age of Sigmar style thing. Hey, you get a symbol. These are the 3 missions that you do that score you victory points. Do them, prevent the enemy from doing their 3. But each of them might just be, go take objectives, you get objective, you score victory points. Objective now being area terrain. Then some victory points for killing the enemy. Perhaps. Mayhaps. Okay, characters. What do we got about characters? There was a little bit on characters. Leaders always led. Now, this is obviously a reference to how, and the only way you could take this, Games Workshop is going to go back to making characters out of lead metal instead of plastic, which totally makes sense. When you've got £25, £30 for one plastic model, that part of that price increase is because there's going to be so much cost in making the one mold to only get one model out of it. Whereas if they go back to lead metal, as Warlord Games had done, a lot of the characters, individual characters, were metal. The new stuff that's coming out is all plastic though. Like B for Bertie, if you want to pre-order that, there's a link in the description to Warlord Games to go pretty much straight to the pre-order section. Then it's all plastic. But Games Workshop apparently going back to lead models. Yeah. Lead poisoning is exactly what we want. I love being poisoned by my hobby. Yeah, it's perfect. It's metaphorical and now literal. Plastic price hikes coming? They might be. Right, another possible interpretation of this is that you assign characters to the unit when you're building an army, which is pretty much how everyone did it anyway. Occasionally, I'd be like, okay, it's Biosanctic Brood Surge, I've got this floating Biophagus, maybe I'll put them with Acolytes with Mining Tools, maybe I'll put them with Metamorphs, it depends what my opponent has got. Metal models used for home defense. Yep. So I have suggested as a wish before that they could have different points per character. So you have a unit of Acolytes, and the unit is 65 for 5, 130 points for 10, and then plus 50 points if you add a Primus. If it's a unit of Neophytes, plus 60 points to add a Primus, plus 50 points to add a Magos, plus 40 points if you add a Locust to them. Or it's you can have a Primus, but their points are 45 points if alone, and then there's no +1 to hit. That'd work. Or maybe they can only go with units. No more wandering around doing secondaries unless you are a lone operative. I think that's part of what they want. They haven't liked Hallowed Martyrs lists that are like 3 Canonesses and a bunch of Epic Heroes and then some tanks. It looks really weird, but those are all of the units that get benefits from the detachment and the stratagems. So I think that's right. I think that maybe you cannot have the leader alone. If you want to have a leader, you have to attach them to a unit. In Age of Sigmar, the way that formations are built is you start with a leader and then you have units, and so you have to attach them. Now this is really annoying if you've got like a Jackal Alphas with no Jackal Bikers, and you just liked having a single biker around on a bike, as bikers often are, and then they have a sniper. Yeah, I didn't like that. I'd like the idea of you can have a character even if there's nothing you can attach them to, even if they're not lone operative. Think about the 10th edition starter set. Oh, how many characters could join things? There was 2 Terminator characters that could join Terminators. You couldn't have the Apothecary join any of the units in the box. That's not ideal. Yeah, my Metal Exorcist is rather heavy, yes. Leader buffs will apply even if leading no units. No, I don't think that's right. I think the idea is the bonus of the character persists if their bodyguard is dead. The general idea being they do not lose their benefit or rule after the unit dies. The new characters they brought out are like, this unit has sustained hits 1. So that doesn't matter whether they're with a unit or not with a unit. The while leading a unit is on something. So that would mean if you can't have characters alone, in this 11th edition starter set, they're going to have it so that every character there can join a unit. So if there was... I don't think that would work too well. But say, okay, there's 4 Space Marine characters and a land speeder, and then 3 infantry squads. You got your tactical squad or not tactical squad, pseudo tactical squad, your Vanguard veterans, and your Gravis Marines. Who can join them? How's that going to work? So maybe they won't do you need to have a character with a unit, just that they won't lose their bonus if they're not with a unit anymore, as long as they started with one. So a Primus by themselves doesn't get +1 to hit, but if they started with a unit and all of the unit died, then they keep the +1 to hit. Yes, if this unit started the battle leading a unit. Yeah, that works. What did Celestian's guns look like? Yeah, so it was a Superior and 4 Sisters. You could take 1 special weapon, 1 heavy weapon. It was basically the best of that unit. And their rule was essentially a Lookout Sir was better. So even if you shot at a character that's in range of them, like 3 inches of them, they would take the damage instead. Think of it as like a 4+ feel no pain, or -1 to be wounded if leading a character, like the Sacrosants currently have. Yes, oh, so often Games Workshop hurts you with the way they word things. Because it makes sense to them, it doesn't make sense to the public. What other hero was in the 11th edition box? So you've got Captain with a cloak and a shield and a sword. You've got the Chaplain with the jump pack and the Crozius. You might have a Librarian. You might have a Banner Bearer. If it's just those 2 characters, yeah, there's definitely units for them to lead. The Marine, the Captain can lead the Tactical Squad. The Chaplain can lead the Vanguard Veterans. Pretty clearly. Guard officers command executing their own models can now safely kill our last man. Yeah, they can be extra heroic. Are they going to change the number of units of each type you can include? Probably. I think so. If we did the... kind of like what's in the Maelstrom rules. Kind of like that. Although that only gives us a template for 1,000 points. We'd have to see. And as I've said, it might be like detachments again, where you do 2 of that detachment. So you can have 2 epic heroes in your army, but only 2,000 points. Right, so yeah, bonuses to the characters. If they're leading a unit, you get this bonus. That will persist if the bodyguard is dead. That means there'll be an FAQ to update or FAQ to create, which immediately says, okay, let's go through all of these different units and we'll say what has changed. So the Primus, the Locus... No, the Locus already has it. The Locus already has Fight First, which is going to become not so great. Because the person who is active gets to choose a Fight First unit to fight. Meaning that Fight First is kind of pointless. Unless you charge with a Fight First unit, you get to Fight First because you charged. This is assuming that Fight First gives you the Fight First bonus. Yeah, charging gives you the Fight First bonus. That's the assumption. Then in the continuing fight, I mean, you still fight first anyway. Because you are the non-active player. I don't know. I don't see the benefit of Fight First. You were always going to fight before your opponent as the non-active player. Unless they do something different with combat. No. The whole thing was it's uninteractive to have a Fight First unit there because no one wants to charge them. Make 3 charges, your 3 units get Fight First in a go. Yeah, okay. But that means your opponent would have to have 2 Fight First units that were both charged at that time. Then it would be the active player picks one, then killing like the Fight First unit. Then the defending player gets to pick their other Fight First unit. You would have to have a lot of Fight First units. That doesn't seem like a great ability. We'll have to see what they do. But they have an FAQ to do for lots of units. which they'll have to create because it'll be a new FAQ for 11th edition, which is going to get very big very quickly as they try and make all the 10th edition stuff compatible. We start pointing out flaws. That'll be fun for me. I don't think there'll be anything big or groundbreaking because the rules generally, I think it's going to feel like a big balance patch. Think about when they changed what reducing the cost of a command point is. Oh, yeah, you get to use a stratagem for free. Well, now it's you reduce the cost of that command point by once per battle round, and everyone's rule on that is the same. So just remove the wording of while leading a unit. Just, if attached at the start of the game, this unit gets X. It doesn't mean they get to continue having the keywords of their dead bodyguard. A Necron Lord is not a Necron Warrior keyword. It also doesn't mean that the reverse is true, and that the unit gets the character bonus if the character is dead. Otherwise, Precision would not do anything. Precision the Hospitaller, and there is no one to give a feel no pain. Maybe fights first versus fights first only applies to those with the actual ability. When they said, like, okay, we'll do combat stuff now. Let me just change that. Where's our combat? Combat cleaned up. They might do more like Age of Sigmar, where it's just pure alternating activations. So if you charge with Banshees, and the Banshees have fight first, either because that's a Banshee rule or because of Jane Czar, that is a fight first unit. As the active player, you get to fight first with them. Then the defending player gets to use their Locus, who has fight first. After that, you alternate back and forth, one unit to one unit. That might be how they do it. People haven't liked that in... I mean, it works for Age of Sigmar when almost everything is a combat unit. It doesn't seem as good in 40k. But you understand what I mean. Type 1 if you understand what I mean. Just all alternating activations. There is no charge bonus or fight first. Yeah, right. You've seen the charge discussed. Right. Not discussed. Discussed. Do you think it's possible to choose to fail a charge after it's been declared? Ooh, don't know. Don't know. Maybe you could choose not to charge. Maybe. Maybe. Okay, people understand what I mean. Good. They understand what I'm talking about with alternate activations. Maybe you played Age of Sigmar in any of the editions. Right, so, charge mechanic. Yeah, that's basically Age of Sigmar's charge mechanic. I don't know if you can choose... I think you can choose to not charge. You don't have to charge something. But your charge roll is you roll 2 dice, and then you can choose not to follow up with it, or you pick any unit, or you move your models that far. You rolled a 7, you can move your models up to 7 inches, as long as you can get into engagement range of them. Age of Sigmar's engagement range is 3 inches, 40k is 1 inch. I think Games Workshop will have thought of it if it's in Age of Sigmar, because they just need to do Control-C, Control-V. That's probably how it'll work. They mentioned disembarking into combat, which is like, oh, okay, sure. You'd be battle shocked and some would die. That's what they said. Or there's a risk they might die. I assume this is like a desperate escape test. That's it. How would combat work on the turn after the charge? That's maybe where the fight first would still take place. Unless fight first changes to only be active if you charged? No. Maybe. Yeah, that could be it. Fight first only works if you are charging. Then you absolutely fight first. And you do all the fight first units before anything else. Fight first maybe doesn't work if you are charged. Otherwise, you have a fights first unit that no one wants to charge, and they didn't like that. Yeah, all the codexes should get updated with this edition. That's how they've been doing the last few editions. Everyone gets a codex. Alright, Age of Sigmar, you need to end within half an inch of an enemy base. Yeah, yeah. They're doing a lot to try and help melee armies in 11th edition? Yeah, kind of. It seems like it so far. Yeah, if not a desperate escape test for combat disembarking, a hazardous test. What if the lance keyword also gives you fight first when charging? I don't know. This is one of those where we'll have to see what happens. They said there'll be like fast dice rolling, which then they dismissed as like, at least in the live stream, this is something that people do anyway. But if they want fast dice rolling, faster combats, and like grouped dice, there might be no separate save for a character. Like you just roll all of the dice for the saves at once. Because currently you have to say, okay, I'm taking 8 saves, right? So I'm going to take 2 on the bodyguard because it's damage 1, I have 2 wounds. Then on the next model, then on the next model, oh, okay, that one lived, okay, do a next one. And then if you get to the character because they have a different save, then you do that one. Or it's like if you got one bodyguard model and a character and they take 2 wounds, you got to roll 1 dice for the bodyguard and then another one if they died, but it's on a different save because it's for the character. They could do a no separate save, but pre-recorded video said there was a faster system for assigning wounds. We already have, when you attack a bodyguard unit, you just use the toughness of the bodyguard. It doesn't matter about the toughness of the character. It's alright, you don't need to go back to the start right away. You can continue where we are. We're on combat. We're not too far into combat. It could be an Age of Sigmar style, like, assign wound to the unit. How does that work for multi-wound units, though? I don't mean, like, this is a Space Marine assault squad, each of them has 2 wounds. I mean, like, how do you assign wound? Oh, I suppose you could do it anyway for, like, the Aquila kill team, Aspect Warriors, Orcs with a Knob. Yeah, the unit take, yeah, total wounds. So you take 5 wounds in a combat, you then remove 5 models worth. But then what if there's like a damage 2 or damage 3 attack? I know it's different in Age of Sigmar because all of the damage spills over. I don't think 40k would do that. The reason they didn't do it in like 8th edition is so that you had a differentiation between a flamer and a las cannon. A flamer can kill up to 6 models. A las cannon can only kill 1 model. If it was then that damage spills over, never take the flamer. You kill a random up to 6 people, whereas the las cannon instantly blams someone. If it's only in combat, ooh, yeah, we're getting back to like, hey, everything's devastating wounds and spills over. Then your assigning wounds would be slow when shooting, but fast in combat. Damage 3 giant hammer, I can kill 3 guys. I've got 3 attacks. Okay, 1 guy can kill 9. Yeah, las cannons wouldn't work. Anything that's more than damage 1 wouldn't work so well. No, not without changing all of the current stats, and they're not doing that to keep the codexes compatible with the unit rules that are there. I can't see them changing every or near every combat weapon on every unit in every army. Yeah, melters would be mad. Why do I need a flamer as a battle sister? I'll just take a melter, I'll probably kill more models. But they said there'd be some kind of faster system for assigning wounds. Don't know how that'll work. And I don't think they'll go quite the Age of Sigmar route. Yeah, no, not for that. Yeah, something different with combat activation, which might just be the alternating. Pile in and consolidate all done at the same time. So everyone piles in. This might be like active player piles in all of their units first, then defending player piles in all of their units, and then like it's simultaneously rolled. Maybe not. Maybe not. No, none of the suggestions sound easier or what Games Workshop would do. Right, we mentioned charge measuring. What they've also said about stratagems Yeah, if everyone does the pile-in at the same time, everyone does the fighting at the same time, or maybe not the same time, but alternating, then all of the people do the consolidation at the same time. It stops your, okay, then I will consolidate into this unit and tag them out, or stop you from fighting with so many models. Yeah. Yeah, how does pistols work? How does big guns never tire and shooting into combat work with spilling over? That would then be the shooting system rather than the combat system. I don't think that's going to be it. We'll have to see. I'm curious. It might just be a big nothing. Like, oh wow, look at all this air of nothing I'm eating. What a wonderful 11th edition. Where's my stratagems? Stratagems. No more stratagem stacking. Right, now this was also not very clear in the live stream. You can use one stratagem per unit per phase. The example given in the live stream audio, once you could hear it, I was using the Twitch version because that seemed to be working, whereas their YouTube had crashed. They then set up another live stream with slightly better audio on the YouTube. So if you want to rewatch it, you need to watch like Twitch first and then YouTube second, rather than what I did of Twitch, then YouTube, then Twitch. Damage spillover only happens to certain weapons, which we have in like Kill Team, sort of. Right, yeah, so stratagems. It's one per unit per phase. The example given in the live stream audio was if you rerolled a charge, you can't use any more stratagems in the fight phase. So that might mean that charging is now part of the fight phase. Or the presenter stumbled over their words. Lots of what is said in live stream does not match the article that came out and saying what happens. They really should have pre-recorded these, especially for the rules stuff. It's gone wrong so many times for Games Workshop live streams, unless they're in Nottingham. Then it's fine. No, he definitely said no more stratagems in the fight phase. It was reroll charge and then no more stratagems in the fight phase. So yeah, then they were like, okay, you can't tank shock and then use a command reroll on a save in the fight phase. That was the example I gave, which unfortunately means that command reroll will probably stay in its current form. Because they gave two examples. One was rerolling the charge, no more stratagems in the fight phase. One was if you use tank shock, then you can't reroll a save. They had actually identically said that turn. Yeah, could be that. Could be that. It was a weird one. So again, there's a bunch of information that might not pan out, but we're going to get annoyed about it if it isn't what they said. Terrible nerf to the sisters. I was thinking that especially the Hallowed Martyrs, because then you use Fight on Death, and I think it's called Righteous Rage. So you get the detachment bonus, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, because you're fighting on death, you count as dead. All of the models are dead that are dead. And then you also have full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound. You throw a unit at the enemy, get it killed, spend 3 command points, or 4 command points if it's a character, like a blended Canoness with a jump pack and halberd, and you do horrible things, but it costs a lot of command points. Now instead you would do either Fight on Death, or the rerolls, or Get Back Up. Hallowed Martyrs is not going to be a popular detachment. Competitively. Still pretty good. Being able to bring back a character, that's good. Fight on Death, that's good. But you were stacking it with the full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound and +1 to hit and +1 to wound. Do we still think it's going to be worth taking a captain type to have a cheaper stratagem? I think it will be, because there'll still be 2 command point stratagems because the Codex is still compatible. Or you could do a stratagem in the shooting phase and then do one in the fight phase, and that is fine. One of those 2 is free. I think that'll still work. Does that sound about right? I think that sounds about right. Good stuff. Do you have any more thoughts or questions or ideas? Maybe? Maybe some thoughts, ideas, and questions. But I think that's all of the notes I've got to go through. Which means we can just talk. Also, it is my anniversary. Also, if anyone wants to give Ko-fi money, that's just tip money, and it'll pop up with a message. That's super appreciated. I am 91% done on my goal for March. Then I've got all of the money I need to stay alive and super happy and well and still travel to event and stuff for March. That's great. Another thing is Miracle Dice charges into Righteous Rage. Yeah, you could still do that. You can still use like Army Rule and Detachment Rule and a Stratagem, I think. Do you know if board size is staying the same, or are you asking if board size is staying the same? Anniversary, going to see the arms turned on? I can't get great tracking on the arms. So it would just go all over the place. So no, we'll not do the arms. We'll not do the arms. I think that board size is staying the same because they currently sell some boards. That's probably all they want to do. And they changed the board size in 8th edition. Yes, in 8th edition. Pretty sure it was 8th edition. So that it was the Kill Team boards that they then sold at that time. 30 inches by 44 inches twice over, making 60 inches by 44. Do I think Psychers will be better this edition? If so, how? No. No, I don't think there'll be any big change to Psychers. Games Workshop seems to like the current... Psychers are a keyword, a bad keyword. The benefit of the psychic attack is they usually have like a couple of firing modes, and there's better AP or better damage than a regular gun. And some abilities have the psychic thing, but you can't get resistance against that. You just get resistance against other psychic things. Yeah, if they just release the mats, they're not changing the board size. So board size will stay the same. We just have a lot of models for the board size. Like even 1,000 points on 60 by 44, it fits very, very well. Doing 2,000 points, you really get into the, it has to be like staging. You put some things out, and then they die, and now you have enough space to move things around. It's also part of why you need so much terrain, because armies are so huge. So I'm hoping they do something with points more than anything. They haven't said anything about points. I don't know much about the Age of Sigmar magic system, because I played Vampire Counts, and I don't think I used anyone that had magic. And they're not called Vampire Counts. Soul Bligat Gravlords. Weird Boy did 2 distinct attacks. Does that indicate something similar for Psychers in game? No, it just probably means they have gun. I cast this gun, I cast this other gun. Yeah, there's usually a 1 psychic gun with alternate firing mode. And it's sometimes different. It's like, okay, you get D6 attacks at strength 5 -1, damage D3, or D3 attacks, strength 6 -2, damage 3, or 1 or 2 attacks at strength 12. It's a las cannon. You're just firing 2 las cannons shots, but they're hazardous. That. When Sister Karamar was always up for pre-order. People like the model. It's an interesting looking model. I have so many very similar models though. I don't know if she'll be by herself. Inquisitor Karamazov just kind of goes alone. He can't join anything. I don't know if he's lone operative. I've played with him so many times. I think no one ever shoots him until he's really close. Inquisitor Karamazov. There you are. No lone operative. Just a Rhino's stats. Toughness 9, 3+ save, 10 wounds. Objective control 3, that's more than a Rhino. So probably something very similar for our lady on the chair. Sister Karamazov, whatever we want to call her. I did not know I've done 600 videos now. My last video is my 600th video, unless the live streams also count. Then this is my 600th video? When I end stream, it might be 601. Don't know. Yay for 600 videos. That's an average of 200 videos per year. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, the custom leaders, yes, the ones that are not quite Paragon Warsuits can lead Penitent Engines. You could have there was a line of text that said she like commands Penitent Engines, or she's in a force of Penitent Engines. In the battalion box that's coming out, she wasn't in it, which is odd. So maybe she can lead Mortifiers. Maybe not. Maybe she just goes alone and has auras. That would make sense. The Dogmata has quite a few auras. Hey, we could have an actually useful Dogmata for this edition. That would be interesting and weird and fun and cool. Thank you very much. I do so like 9 whole monies from Richard. Very kind of you. That goal is getting closer to being done. Thank you very much, Wenbin Tan, for the 30 monies plus 9 from Richard, which definitely makes 309 monies. I'm good. I'm good. Wonderful. Thank you all. Both for nice comments, for liking the video, for clicking subscribe, for giving money, any and all of them that you have done. At the very least, I'm sure you can click a like button. Thank you. Want Scout Sisters or Heavy Cavalry Sisters? I think we're fine with Seraphim being our fast attack choice. I mean, Games Workshop seems to be going into the, well, we did Sacrosanct, so what if we did more Sacrosancts? Oh, the Dogmata absolutely needs to be able to lead Repentia. It's annoying that they can't. That is their whole job. But there's no way to get her. I mean, she's going to be sold separately. We saw the box. It spanned really quickly in the live stream and wasn't quite matching the audio that they were saying. But yeah, there was a single box with just her. And it's probably going to be like 50 quid. Obviously. A very expensive one. Just a generally very expensive lady. Maybe she'll be good, maybe she won't be good. We don't know. We don't know is the sad thing. We'll get rules for her before she's actually out though. That's important. We like that. Looking forward to a kit bash. Oh, you could do lots with her. Absolutely lots. So when she comes out, I have at least a model that looks kind of like her that I could use. Or I could convert a version. Ooh, but we've got to have missiles, because she has missiles underneath the throne, doesn't she? And then she's also got 2 heavy bolters and 2 heavy flamers. Oh, this is a live stream. Yes, this is a live stream. Yeah, I know about the agent player that did really well. It's Folger Piles. He's a Custodes player normally. So he's like, okay, he's really good at playing 40k. And it was a challenge to play agents. And it's a very, yeah, I'm going to move block you and just score more points than you while you can't get out your deployment zone kind of list. What's the thoughts on the Crucible of Champions mechanic? I mean, I love it. It's great. It is absolutely wonderful to be able to make characters. They are probably a bit overpowered, a little bit cheap for what they do, but I like the idea of, with points, modular building of a character. Oh my goodness, we could do that again. We could absolutely do that again, like we've done in past editions. When they've been talking about points, there seemed to be a suggestion that, like, some things would cost points. If it's, say a multi-melter, that costs 10 extra points, but otherwise everything is free for the Battle Sisters. So you can still have like a heavy bolter and a melter gun that comes in the box, and it's nothing else. You don't need to spend any extra points. Or with a character, okay, we know that the halberd is the best choice for the Canoness because of how it interacts with the Zephyrim now, so if you have a halberd, it's an extra 10 points. Could have keywords at added points. The issue there, think Space Marines, because Games Workshop was always thinking Space Marines. There's 12 different kinds of lieutenant, there's 4 different kinds of captain, there's 3 different kinds of librarian, at least. Don't have a Gravis librarian, but yeah, there's 3 different kinds of librarian. They each have different abilities depending on what they lead. So they might not just be have a librarian, and then if you want a particular keyword, this is the points you pay. Instead, it could be we still have separate data sheets and certain weapons. I don't know if weapon keywords. I think it'd be more of a balancing thing. To make certain weapon choices better or worse. You could like recombine the scourges. Say, okay, Haywire Blasters, Dark Lancers, they cost 5 or 10 extra points per model. And then if you don't want all of the Dark Lancers, if you want a couple of Blasters and Shard Carbines, it's no extra points. There's only 2 different kinds of Calgar currently. Yeah, I couldn't mute in time, I'm sorry. It's just coughing up the blood. Yes, it's super fun to play the Crucible of Champions. I like the characters you can make. They're fun, they're silly. I haven't found a tournament yet that'll accept them. Maybe if I was going to go to one, I can be like, hey, can we have one, please? Can we make one Crucible of Champion character? Please, please, please. You can do it on the new Recruit app, so... Will we see seasonal data sheets? Age of Sigmar has that with like the Scourge of Garan. No, I think Age of Sigmar is doing something very similar to how 40k works at the moment. We had yearly mission decks. That's a season. That's, I think, something that tracks with Age of Sigmar. Because we're just starting the 2nd year. We've had 1 full year, 2 full years of Age of Sigmar. I know we're like the 3rd version of Spearhead. That's how it would work. Make the one that gives the Repentir a 5+ invuln save. Isn't it a 4+ invuln save? I think it's the one that gives them a 4+ invuln save. Because you can also then change any miracle dice into a 4. So it's perfect for passing saves. It's great fun. So rather than a seasonal, okay, we're doing this theme. They already do that. They already do that. Think of the war zones. That's how Games Workshop does plot at the moment. So, start of 11th edition, we will have Warzone Armageddon, I think. Although we've already sort of got that. But we could have like a mission deck or another campaign book around Armageddon. Or we might say the one after that, coming out in, say, December 2026, which is 9 months away. Then it would be, okay, let's check back in with the 4th Tyrannic War. See how that's working. And then in that particular campaign book or mission deck, there would be particular extra bonuses. Ah yes, Age of Sigmar does like boosts to like, yeah, we're boosting these certain ones, you put them in this detachment, then you're the hunters, and the hunters get a better detachment ability. And then there's the hunted, and they get the better detachment. Oh, right, yeah, so alternate data sheets only valid for a year. Yeah, I didn't like that. I wasn't a fan of that. I sort of saw that as a balancing thing. Like, okay, you can use this version of the datasheet because it's better temporarily for the year. I don't think they'll do that for 40k. More likely we're going to have, I know we've just had a Crusade Armageddon thing. It's not Armageddon Crusade. Oh yeah, we had Armageddon Crusade last year, and we're doing an Armageddon campaign book, and then 11th edition is Armageddon. They want to get their Armageddon in there. Armageddon in there, Armageddon out of there. It's very odd. We need to just cram so many wars in. 4th-ish war is a remake of the 1st war. This war is a remake of the 2nd war, probably. But we could have more themed things, like the Leviathan Crusade book. When it came out, the theme within the Crusade rules was monsters and people who hunt monsters. And then we changed to Pariah Nexus, and it was about the battle line units, both in the tournament, matched play mission deck, and also the campaign book. Crusade book. It was a Crusade book, not a campaign book. That was a different. Starting 66 Gretchen in the mid-board infiltrating. And are you going to give them the feel no pain or the +1 to hit and wound? You have a choice. They also have stealth. The Shrike is coming back. So is that like winged Tyranids? I expect they will be. We already have the winged Tyranid Prime. I'm surprised they didn't come back last edition. This edition. 10th edition. Instead, we've got 2 versions of the Tyranid Prime. In the trailer, all Ultramarines are battle line. Yes, they had the tactical symbol. They're from the 5th squad of like the 2nd company. I think there was a gold outline. They have chainswords in the squad as well as bolters. Now, we've seen the models. They don't have chainswords, just bolt guns. It might just be that the sergeants have chainswords, and we saw 2 sergeants. That's good. The Red Terror model does look rather nice. I like the way it's part smashing like 2 statues and they're crumbling in real time. Very nice. Very nice model. Yeah, so I'm expecting that they'll just be sergeants with chainswords. I didn't see those models carrying bolt guns. And we know that they're probably not going to do the same as they did with the orcs, where the orcs have a chopper and a pistol and a shooter. That's probably just a very specific thing for the orcs. Yeah, right. As a starting Deathwatch player, I have massive anxiety about 11th from veterans going away to even existing. Yeah, I can predict... Well, it's an interesting one. I had notes about this because I was going to do a video for when they came out. Right. The rules for the Deathwatch kill team, as they're written in Imperial Agents, called Deathwatch Veterans in Deathwatch Adeptus Astartes, they were sold under the name Deathwatch Veterans. No, Deathwatch Kill Team. That was their name on the box, Deathwatch Kill Team. The new Marines, now sold separately, that was in the Versus Necrons Tomb World Kill Team box, are called Deathwatch Kill Team on their box. Like, the box cover is called Deathwatch Kill Team. So that's very confusing that we've got Deathwatch Kill Team and also Deathwatch Kill Team. I'm expecting that the Aquila Kill Team, that's going to continue, but we also know that the codexes, for now, are compatible with 11th edition. So, Imperial Agents point of view first, you will still be able to use Deathwatch Veterans and Deathwatch Aquila Kill Team for a while. They'll stay around until the next codex. Even if the Deathwatch Marine PDF, because it's not a codex, removes them. It is a bit of a concern. They might say, okay, the Deathwatch are being stripped back to just what is in the battalion. There is the flyer, there is one Deathwatch kill team, and that's your lot. I would dislike that. Considering how much we rioted last time when Deathwatch were removed entirely apart from being an Imperial Agents, apart from Legends, and Games Workshop was like, hey, just use the Deathwatch in your Space Marine army and it works fine. Well, what if you had only Deathwatch kill teams? You can't now attach characters to them. You can't put them in a Land Raider. You can't put them in a Razorback. It was only the Imperial Agents Rhino or the Flyer, and only like 2 squads. We hated that. Didn't work. PDF was released within 6 months. Yeah, it's very confusing. So we might just lose 1 battle line unit. Otherwise, they might continue as Adeptus Astartes. Just paint them yellow. Yeah, that's how it works. We do at least know that when they were talking about the Steel Legion, that was concept art from 2025. I love the idea of the A is around a bullet. That's good. That's good. I mean, you can replace them sort of with Blade Guard. Sort of. Not really. The guys with swords and shields, or swords and mauls, yeah, they can. Yeah, we'll have to see when the Space Marine Codex comes out what happens to Deathwatch, the Space Marine Adeptus Astartes version. Currently it's a PDF. They may be, okay, here's your unit, and they're in the Space Marine Codex. That might just be how it works. And then, okay, we can have an army of them, and who can join them? Well, you might just keep sticking on the keywords of if you can join Sternguard, you can join them, or if it's in the Space Marine Codex and it's just that one unit, then we haven't got the mixed kill teams anymore. The Proteus kill team, the Indomitor kill team, the Fortis kill team. That would kind of suck for a lot of people who have the flavorful detachments, the flavorful kill teams. And I've got Kill Team Cassius. I want to keep using Kill Team Cassius. I'm hoping, not necessarily, that Legends would carry over into 11th edition. So at the very least, you can use 10th edition Legends in 11th edition. Games Workshop hasn't promised anything yet. Then again, we've only had the first announcement last Wednesday. It's been, what? Or Thursday. I guess it was Thursday. It's been 3 days. Why haven't you told us everything, Games Workshop? I only have more questions about 11th edition now. Some of which we can guess, which has been the topic of this stream. Oh my. Why isn't my chat keeping up? It's a good job I have it on screen. Okay, good. We have been going for 2 hours and 40 minutes, I think. Yeah. I think this is a good time to end the stream. We've been going long enough now. It's been fun. I feel I've learned more and also no less about 11th edition. Have you enjoyed the stream? You've stuck around long enough, so I assume you've enjoyed the stream in the background. Great. Good. Absolute silence is what I want to hear on that. We have to be... Yeah. Okay, drip feeding the content creators. Yeah. Good. All right. I'm ending the stream now. You all have a great day of 40k.